YouTube. How is it going? I hope all is well. Today it is time to wrap this thing up and finish it more or less once and for all. There's one last thing I have to redo, which is the faceplate. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. But the big thing that I needed to figure out was the effects loop. Now, it didn't take as much work as I thought it was going to take. I tried a couple different things to see how it would work, and ultimately it just, the way that I put it in the first time attached to the master volume was the way it wanted to be. But there was a little trim pot in there, and more or less I just had to adjust that down a little bit. And once I did that, this thing was in a functional zone where it didn't add any noise, didn't cause any problems, everybody was happy. So I can kind of tell you, based at least on the effects that I have, that you're probably going to end up with the effects level pretty low. Otherwise you'll get more on the return side than you were looking for. But it's clean and it does what it's supposed to do. But you still have some effects level send, of course, that you can adjust, and then of course you can adjust the effects return. Now the effects return is interactive with the master volume, which is to say that as you turn the master volume up, the return of the effects tends to be less effective, which means that you have to turn it up a little bit. Or you can turn up your effects send to get more into it so you get the balance you need. It's one of those sort of deals where you just kind of have to find that balance. Obviously, it's semi-intuitive, right? As you turn the master volume down, obviously you're going to find that you get more effects in than you want, so you have to turn the return down. But there's a point where the return level of this thing will turn down the master volume, if you will. So there is a point of equilibrium, and that's more or less where you're trying to set the return level on there, is that point of equilibrium, and then your effects send level is kind of more or less the balance. The way it is currently right now, you pretty much start with the effects send all the way down, and it's pretty well balanced no matter where you're at, to the point that by the time you get the amount of effect you want, you know, it's not really affecting the master volume that much. It is intuitive to a degree, but you're going to have to work on that. So that's a learning curve in this amp. It's one of the little quirks, I would say. So I only get one shot at this, so we're just going to kind of have to do it. But let's first enjoy ourselves a pop of our Dr. Pepper. Okay, so as I was mentioning, we'll take the plastic off. First, we're going to take the tubes out. We're going to get this cleaned off. We're going to put it in the cabinet there for hopefully the last time ever. And then we'll see some aftershots and stuff like that. Now, I still do need to finish the faceplate. I did mention that, but we'll come back to that. So for now, let's just start ripping out some tubes. And I guess it doesn't really matter what order they go in. Realistically, they're all the same. Well, technically, they're all the same. But this is where we get to see if my chassis maker or chassis builder did a good job at not completely destroying my face. I only say that because it could mean disaster. There might be a scratch in the middle here that I can't do anything about, that sort of thing. So this is the part that's like oddly satisfying, I think, to some people. I'm just gonna start ripping it off from the back here and work my way up to the front. I'm trying not to get my fingers all over it, because every print that I put on here is another one I gotta wipe off, that sort of thing. There it goes. Yeah, there's a couple little marks right in here. You probably can't really see it, but I think they might be superficial. And then there's just dust around all the spots you can see where obviously this stuff wasn't at. So that's kind of the downer to not just tearing it off all at once, is that you kind of can see all those little dust spots. There are a couple little superficial marks. Nothing to worry about. I have found that you can use fluids like alcohol or something like that to rub on this that will help get rid of all the marks. And it's not really the marks, it's the, what do you call it? Just the area where it's been exposed and it started to oxidize. objectively, you want to try to get this done a little faster. So I'm going to move this up here. I'm going to see if my breath will help clean those spots out. Not much. Not much. It is better, though. I'll tell you that. It is a lot better. Might just take some work. Either that or I'm going to have to try a different solution. When I say solution, I mean like a different fluid to rub it out with. I would say that acetone would be a good one, but my experience with acetone and aluminum is that it tends to leave like white streaks or something like that. So you just need something that evaporates fast, and my breath seems to be doing the trick, to be honest. Can't say you don't have my DNA on here. Oop, and I go and scratch my glasses. Oh, totally straight up scratch my glasses. Darn it. Yeah, I don't know what it is about, like, just human breath in general. It just seems to work really well for cleaning off, like, shmoo from your aluminum. I don't know if there's just some, like, natural whatever, like, not even water works as well. I think it's just how quick it, like, evaporates is really what it comes down to. The faster it evaporates, the better it seems to be. But then there's like no residue. I brushed my teeth is really what it comes down to. I don't know why I'm spending so much time in this general vicinity right here. You can't see any of it anyway. It's like one of those spots. And I'm purposely ignoring your chats right now. I want to get this done. We're going to do it. So there. That's looking pretty dang good. You can kind of see where I was a little off on some of these. This one there is not quite like the others. Darned it. Even with all the best intentions, you can't always win. All right. That did clean up really well. There's a little spots right in here. Oh yeah. Well, those spots I was worried about, the little superficial ones, they're pretty much gone now. So we got lucky. They were actually superficial. So, all right, I'm happy with that. You see a couple scratches right in here. You can't see it from the angle on the camera that you have, but when I was installing it, I missed a couple times. And I realize I'm off shot here. I'm just trying to make sure that I get a view from all angles to make sure we got this thing as clean as she gonna get. Now I do have to be mindful. I'm at that point now where every fingerprint is going to start to become very permanent. So I want to try to touch this thing as little as possible from this point on. All right, let's go ahead and get our sticker is going to peel off, I think, at some time in the near future. Might just get it over with, peel the Band-Aid now. So what I'm talking about is this little sticker starting to, it's gotten warm enough from being upside down. Yeah, I'm going to leave it. I'll let it, you know what, I'll just let nature take care of it. It's been upside down enough that the sticky stuff is starting to, you know, come off, I guess, a little bit is what I'm trying to say. All right. Now, I am going to ship this off with 12AX7s in all positions. This position that I'm putting in right now, this one right here, that is a spot that I would say that you could tube roll with quite, you know, fairly or with good result, I guess is the term I'm looking for. That is the phase inverter. That is the actual phase inverter. So if you change this tube there, that is the one that you can put in like a 12AT7 or something like that if you want to. Now, what I noticed with the 12AT7 is it adds kind of like this upper mid brightness that you may or may not like. You might love it. I don't know. And it does seem to knock back the bass just an ever so slight bit. But I didn't care for it. It took some of the warmth out of it. It's not like bass, but it's just like, it just tightened it up a little bit too much for my liking. But that is me. Another tube that you could probably get some good success with is this first tube. Rolling tubes there. It is a parallel triode in this position. Another spot that you probably could tube roll if you wanted would be this spot right here. This is the other parallel triode in here. So these two tubes right here are the parallel triodes. Those ones will have a fair amount of effect by the type of, well, by the tube that's in there, okay? So just something to think about. You don't have to think about it, but you know what I mean. I'm just getting things ready here. So, isn't that beautiful? Oh, and I did decide we are going to go with these knobs. I showed it to a couple friends, and even myself, I just kind of have to, there's not really much arguing with the fact that those are the best knobs for the job. I'm a little disappointed that I scratched my lenses. These are brand new too. I was hoping they would last a little longer. Darn it all to hell. I will live with it for today, though. It is just a small, fine scratch after all. So this guy here, nothing has really changed. I'm going to just check and make sure that the mirror is all nice and clean. Toodles! Looks like everything's still pretty clean up in here. Just going to wipe it down again. The mirror, for the most part, stays pretty clean. I'll be honest. It doesn't, I mean, it gets dusty, but it's just like any amp. If you can get in there with your hands, you can clean it off. Now, the nice thing is that the way that this amp is done, you just take the faceplate off. You can get that valance out without taking one of the sides off. You can. I don't suggest it. It's just 3 screws to take off one side. Once you get the one side off, the valance comes out. No problemo. Pick a side, and you're good to go. But, all right, it's time to set this guy in. Sorry, I got my head in the way. Arrgh. Get in your home. Golly. It's gonna fight. It's fighting. I did all the wrong things. Apparently. So, and of course it doesn't want to focus now. I'm going to tell you right now, it's much, much easier to put this thing in upside down, okay? Now, the reason I say that is because with this thing being upside down, you have the amp in a more controllable way. You can just kind of set it in there, but we're not doing that today, okay? So, what I need to do, though, now is get that, the light thing done up. Now, the way I did it, it should pretty much do it on its own, but of course, you know. So what I'm going to do is set it on its side. I'm going to pull it out just a skosh, just a little bit, so I can get this thing. Oh, there. I don't know if you heard that, but that little, like that was this thing working itself out. And I can tell you already that it has done it. Okay. It is in the spot. It is in its spot like it is supposed to be. Then we're going to just center this thing up a little bit here. There it is. All right. You are going to get some marring on the side of this thing here. You can kind of see it when I shade the light. There's some scratches there from the face on this thing here, these things here. That is going to happen. That's just part of it. Okay, it would probably be smart at this point to just put the feet on and call it a day. So I'm going to just do that right now. There's that one. There is, I think this one's trying to go. There it goes, yep. As I recall, this is the only one back here that was a little bit off. Nope, that one's on. Oh my God, it's like perfect. I'll take it. All right. Again, I just want to try to center it as best I can here. That's where it kind of wants to live. I'm going to push it. I'm pushing it back into the chassis because I want this thing to be pressed against the back plate there. So I just give it a little force down to make sure that it's, you know, pushed into the back of the cabinet. So I'm going to get this one in a little deeper. There we go. All sucked up. You don't have to have these ones crazy tight, but it doesn't hurt to have them semi-tight. I'm just saying, like, tight is good, but you don't have to freaking crush it to death. This thing ain't going nowhere. By the time this thing is done, it's not going nowhere. It's just not. All right, for me, I don't know what it is. I like working. It's probably easiest to take this side on and off the most, but I don't know. It's up to you. You just pick a side. It doesn't really matter that much. These things should be pretty much non-directional. It's just, I would say try to keep them on the side that they came out of, because it does seem to fit best. Well, I kind of want to put the bottom one in first, to be honest. Although, you know, yeah, I'm going to put the bottom in first. It's just, I think it's just the smarter way to do it. This one's got the most, you know, like holes and most things you can kind of goof up. Again, probably doesn't really matter. Focus! Doesn't like that large, wide thing. For some reason I've noticed. Alright, so there we go. Now, I got lucky on this one. Where I placed everything and where I put the holes on this, everything just kind of aligned the way it needed to. And I apologize here. Let me get this so you can see a little bit more of what I got going on. Literally all I'm doing is screwing in screws. Now, I will let you know that, or I will say that, while these are meant to hold the amp in to some degree, they are just fascia pieces. You do not have to crush these things in there, all right? It's literally just holding the face pieces on. So again, just, you don't have to go crazy crushing these screws in here. And considering how many times they should ever have to come out, I guess it would probably be smart to check and make sure that the light works before we go too much further. Because if it doesn't work, I gotta get the thing to work, or the thing to turn on. So let's do that real quick. We're at a spot now where we can check the light. So let's do that. I'm just gonna plug it into a load here. I'm going to plug it into, what load? Where's that freaking cable at? It's over here somewhere. I just can't remember which one it is. I got a lot of cables over here right now. My apologies. It's not you, it's not you, it's not you. Is it you? It's over here. That's what it is. Imagine that. Sorry. Alright, cool. Got that. Now we're going to plug the power in. There it is. Alright, do the lights come on? The lights came on. I don't know if you can see that. I can see that. The lights came on. All right. There we go. We can take this thing and finish buttoning it up. Save your questions until later. I know that you have some. I know that I will address your comments here in a bit. I just want to get this done. Okay, Guten tight. All right, and then we got this one. I'm gonna one of these you just have to kind of twist the knob. Kind of another reason I selected these knobs. They just work really well for this thing. When I took it over to my friend's house, I talked to the wife, a couple other friends. Like those other round knobs, as nice as they are nice knobs. They just don't fit the motif very well. The white of the like the knob position thing just doesn't do it. So we opted to not utilize that one. So I'm gonna push this in from the side here. Oh man, it's at an angle. Luckily, everything's kosher. There we are. Might not even be in there the way I want it to go. I guess it doesn't matter. No, it does matter. This one is not going in the way I want it to go. And so, let's see here. That's the way I want it to go. It does matter. I probably should put top. But you should never have to take these things out. So there it is. That's the way it wants to go. As much as I tried to get these things exact, I just wasn't able to. And I'm also going to place this thing in this orientation here. It's just going to be easier for me to work on it. Got like this little spot. There we go. There it is. All right. It's just so much easier to work on it like this in this orientation. All right. Now this one is a little, you got to be a little more careful with this last one here. I'll show you what I'm looking at here. So this one here, you just got to be a little more careful with it because you got all the knobs in the way. But I'm using a slightly undersized screwdriver so I can get a little angle of attack, if you will. It's not ideal, but again, what we're talking about here is a hole that is properly sized for the screw that's going in there, and you know, all that fun stuff. So there we are there, starting to come together. I'm gonna put this one in for the time being. This is not the real one. We're just gonna put it in for looks for now. The real one, when it is shipped off, will be in there, or the one I should say that will be the permanent one for the amp. By then I'll have all the, you know, the scratches out of it and all that fun stuff. But we're putting this in here for now. I just haven't gotten to opening up the CNC machine yet, so my apologies. So again, I'm going to just try to show you how you can get this thing in. You just slide it in there on the one side. All right, and then you can see it's almost there. So you just kind of, I pull up on this one in the middle and push down here. And then that allows you to get the space you need to set it literally in the space there. And it is a firm fit, but not so firm that this thing is bowed, right? So I sized everything up so it just fits in there. And then lastly, we've got this guy here, which I'm pretty sure goes in this orientation. It is a nice tight fit. Yes, it is. The chassis has not gone down as far as I would like it. So I'm going to loosen the chassis up just a skosh here so I can squeeze it down further. There it is. That's all it needed. Somehow or another, when I tightened it up, it pulled the chassis back up. Don't know how, don't know why. Doesn't matter. So we're not even going to bother. What I'm going to do is get these in. Like I said, it'll probably be easier if you did it the other, laying down. But you can do it like this. This is another one that's kind of a brat. This bottom one here. You can't see it because my head's in the way of that one there. But whatever. You get it. You can see the gap along the side there. You can close that gap up. When you get it closed up, you know that your screws are tight enough. You can also use other tools. You don't have to use this one. I do have an angle tool for this thing. Again, it's up to you. This is the ooga booga hard way to do it, but this is the way we're doing it. So this one here, I find it easier to push the power switch into the up position. You can remove the jewel if you want. That might help get the space you need, but honestly, it's got the space it needs because it just kind of goes in. If I can get my fat head out of the way, right? You can actually see it. All right, in she goes. There it is. She's in the hole. Make sure you remember to put that back in the down position. There we are. Okay, now I will make sure I got these tightened up again. Not sure exactly what happened, but either I just needed to push it down a little bit more, or when I was tightening it, it kind of worked itself up. And again, I'm going for tight, but not like, oh my God, kind of tight here. There it goes. Pretty dang tight. All right, that's it. She's done. She is permanent. All right, let me make sure my thing stays all nice and pretty like over here. There we go. Sorry. Let's put these down over here. I guess we're ready to kind of do another real sound sample, if you will, but obviously you've seen the front side. Let's look at the back side here. Oh man, she's heavy. She's a big girl. There's the back side. So you can kind of see here what I did with the effects. Oh man, that fits so well. So what I'm talking about is that the back of the chassis is squeezed all the way up against the back of the thing here. So yeah, she came out real nice. Like, I was able to clean up the stuff around this thing. It's not ideal. There is a little bit of white powder inside the joint there. I imagine over time it will darken up and do what it needs to do, but luckily the squeeze out from the super glue was superficial, and we were able to do what we needed to do with it. So this thing is good to go. This is raised or embossed, if you will. So I don't know if you can see that, but right in here. So do, be careful. I did, deburr it a little bit, but yeah. All right. So I think that is it for this part of the video. Let's get to the part that we're actually waiting for, which is the part where we make more noise. Because I'm pretty sure that's the part everybody actually cares about. So I'm going to get this thing kind of aligned here. I think that's going to be good right there. Power is off. Now, when I do the sound for this, I'm going to do it through the the 2 notes this time. I'm not going to go with the other one. I think the 2 notes is the more appropriate way to do it. And I'm just getting that all kind of done up. And I need a longer cable is what I actually need. Guess I should have planned that part out a little bit more, huh? Should have, maybe. So I just got to dig my longer cable out here. Yes, I keep all my cables readily accessible. Imagine that. Now, the only reason I want to use the 2 notes is because the 2 notes, obviously, it's just more, I don't know what are the words I'm trying to use? It's the great equalizer, right? It's just the great equalizer. So I'm just making sure that these are in the sends and the returns here, like they're supposed to be. Sorry, you're just looking at my backside, but there you are. Okay, now what we can do is take just a moment. We're going to take just a moment. We're going to take just a moment right now. Just a moment. We're going to take just that moment. And we're going to try to enjoy it for a second here. We're going to let it just soak in for a moment that, in theory, this amp is done, complete from A to zinc. And cheers to that. All right. So, we are ready to make some noise for the most part. Let me get to a different camera view here, and blam. Here, let's square it up even. Is that pretty squared up? That's almost squared up. That's pretty squared up right there. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. That's pretty squared up. All right, there we have it. That is the amp. That's what it would kind of look like sitting on your thing right there. All right, well, you probably wouldn't believe it if I didn't tell you, but that was actually not done in real life. Now it's gonna, let's go to actual real life. But first, let's look at a couple of pictures of the finished product, if you will. Oh yes, there it is. A couple shots of it here. So I picked up a little tool to make this possible, and as you can see, I think it looks pretty good. And then this is the back side, of course. These are the untouched up ones. All I did was crop it. So then I got a few of those, of course, but just a push in on the front there, of course, and another push in on the back here. So that's what you're winning, everybody. That is what you are winning. Then I let AI kind of have a go at it here. So it did some weird things to it, but that's more or less, what it could look like, I guess, if I were gonna, do that kind of a shot. Oh, the walnut is definitely my thing. And then here's the back side there. The AI did pretty good on these 2 shots here. It got a little too friendly on these next ones, but this is one of those other shots from before, but I had AI do some cleanup, and you can see down in here where it messed up, like some of the wording. It didn't know what to do. It's like it just can't leave well enough alone, you know what I mean? Like, all you have to do is take the image, and all I wanted it to do is extend the white all the way out and put it into a 16:9 format. Nah, I couldn't just leave it alone. But here's the front side, which did a little bit better of a job with. Didn't mess with it quite as much, but obviously this is those other 2 shots there with the smoke in them are kind of the ones everybody really wants. So bear with me for a second. I'm going to get this back into a normal preset here, and then blam! It's all on me, baby. Okay, so it's time to do another little soundy sample. I tried to do one little thing where I actually kind of learned like a portion of a song. So we can actually say I played a song. And I came across it accidentally as I was fooling around. I'm just going to fiddle far around. This is going to be a really short segment. This video isn't going to be very long. It doesn't need to be, but I will definitely answer some... thank you, sir. Low budge. I appreciate that. I'll answer some more questions and stuff like that. But, you know, of course, the moment we start coming out of the pre-recorded media, I got to go to the bathroom. So, you know, we want to see lights in the shot. You're going to see lights in the shot. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm going to turn on the amp. The amp is on. The effects that you hear are from the effects loop. I decided it best to just leave it that way, so I have there's no post-processing stuff going on. It's whatever's coming out of the Torpedo Captor X is what you are hearing. It is mono in, so it's mono effects. So, but it's coming through on your side in stereo, I guess. But let's see here. I got the guitar. Now, I think what you guys really want to see is the face. I'm beginning to really love this thing. So, just to kind of give you a little heads up on what I've done. Yes, you can hear the amp now for sure. I'll tell you what, I'm going to leave it plugged in because it might be smart. I got the new nut put in. And that definitely made a huge difference. I was able to lower the action just a skosh more. And this is literally turning out to be one of my most favorite guitars at the moment. And I mean, come on. It's the world's most authentic guitar in the world. I mean, you got a Les Paul Custom made in the USA, modded in the USA anyway, with an ESP neck, a fat one too. Like, this is a baseball bat neck. I don't mind them, but... And then some cheap Fleor pickups or whatnot. These tuning heads, I'm really like it. Excuse me. These are Geiger branded stuff. I put that Geiger on that other guitar I was talking about, the SG that I have, and it saved that guitar. Like, it brought that guitar back to life. So, super stoked about that. Now, what I'm going to do is, let's push in on the amplifier. And I know you want to see it bigger than that, so hold on for a second here while I do something here. That's not the one I want, it's the face cam. I am going to see if I can extend this out. You'll have to bear with me. Yes, you can see the artifacting from the... well, you can just see the artifacting from the green screen action going on. So, I apologize, but there's the lights. Hold on, I know what you really want to see. I know what you really want to see. Let's do this. Let's do this. You really want to see is that. That's what you wanted to see, isn't it? That's what she looks like. I'll put on a little bit of backlight so that way it actually has less grain action going on. Did that help? A little bit, not a whole lot. We'll leave it like that. We'll do demo in the dark act. Well, shoot, I actually kind of want you to be able to see the faceplate. That would be kind of nice. Oh, there you go. We'll leave it like that. How's that? It's a little moody, even though what I'm going to play isn't very moody. But whatever. I'm going to turn off my mic and we'll go from there. All right. Need banana for scale. Yeah, right? I'm already embarrassed because that wasn't very good playing, but you know, whatever. You get the idea. That's where the amp will go. That is the amp. That is what it is. That is through an option that is built into the Torpedo Captor X. So if you have a 2-notes Torpedo Captor X, you can get that sound very easily. I'm going to move this back into the corner here. I think right there will work. Sorry, a little nervous. I'm nervous for a reason too. Nervous because I'm excited, nervous because I'm happy, nervous because I'm nervous. And sure as hell this thing did not go back where I wanted it to. There it is. Let's try that. All right, maybe I need to go smaller is what it is. Whatever. Not gonna bother. Are there any questions? It sounds yeah, I thought so. That was more or less at bedroom level. I sent a couple of you guys some clips the other day from my iPhone. I did have the gain a little bit different. I had it turned up a little bit more. In the room, it sounds sort of similar to what you heard in that clip there, but I don't know. It sounds great in the room. I know, I can tell you that, but obviously it's a little bit different when you change things up. So, any questions? Because this thing it's starting to become a reality that it belongs to someone else now. At this point in time, it's going to be one of you guys that gets to own it. So I can tell you right now, it does do clean. If you want, we can show you the cleaner sounds, but I don't know that we need to because we know it'll do clean. Please enter fretboard assassin. Please do, dude. Fretboard assassin. Get your name in the hat, man. There's about 30 some odd people in there. We're shooting for, I mean, my minimum was 50. I know we're gonna get at least 50, so I know that we're gonna get at least 50 people now that we actually have something tangible. There was a little bit of delay, but let me show you kind of. I guess we can kind of show some of these things. I think what I'm gonna do, I'll leave it up, but I'm not gonna turn off my mic. So there's gonna be a little bit of weird delay anyway, but I'll show you kind of what's going on here. So do you hear that? That's the effects, or that's the delay from the effects loop. And I can get the mix up a little bit higher, so this is more delay and less dry. So you can mix in some of the dry with it, and that will cause some potential phase issues. But the beautiful thing is that this thing has a polarity switch, so if it's out of phase, I guess we can actually show that, but if it's out of phase, you can actually, you know, get that sound if that's what you're looking for. I don't know what that sounds like with both of us in there, but I'll show you what it sounds like with the polarity reversed. All right, so this is with the polarity reversed. Here, I'm gonna mute my mic. I'm gonna turn my mic off. Well, it would help if I actually got it to turn off. My mic gonna work now. There it goes. All right. As you can tell, it's got all kinds of. So what I was trying to show you is a bunch of like different settings on the effects loop. So I don't have the greatest. I'm not using the best tool probably for what we're trying to do today. I was using my Dark Sun. It's a Seymour Duncan Dark Sun. It works well, it works okay, but it does have its own like latency kind of involved with it, which is why it kind of has more of a open sound. I don't know what it like a delay, right? I don't know. I don't know. It has a sound. That's all I can say. I'm gonna sit down now, take a breath, and just take a breath. So I cannot thank you guys enough for just all your support over the last like 6 months. I know it's one of those things, it's not easy to be patient for something like this. Just the number of hours alone put into trying to make this thing happen has been nerve-wracking enough for me as it is. It's crazy to think. I mean, I haven't really done a full count on it, but it's well over the 200-hour mark. So it's a fun amp to play, and that, I'm not kidding, that is at bedroom level. Right there, you can play like that all freaking day in your room, and nobody is ever going to come and bother you. So that's probably why it was a little difficult to get it to go into the infinite sustain. But Riley got to hear a video the other night where I was like, bedroom level, that's at bedroom level. And it was literally, I could whisper, and that's what you could hear, was more of that infinite sustain. So this is, it's in that spot, man. I got right this, there we go. Spent electrons in the game. Let's go. So the more of you, the merrier. I would love for it to go to another home. That's all I can say. So I'm at that point. I'm going to move out of the way so you can actually see the damn thing. I'm going to come on over here a little more. So you guys want to see pictures again? Because why not? Hold on, let me get back to the beginning again here. Bloop. There we go. I'll show you some pictures. And then we can also... Oh, I gotta actually select the button. Sound at high gain. Yeah, dude, I'm telling you. And that's with the 10-foot cable straight into the front with basic pickups. I mean, they're not like high output super distortions or anything like that. I haven't tried boosting it yet. I really haven't tried boosting it yet. It's one of those things, it's got more than enough. It's got more than enough gain for me. I probably wouldn't run it with volume 1 and 2 all the way up very much. I like them kind of both right about 3 o'clock. It just seems to be that's kind of the sweet spot. And if I need just a little bit more gain, a little more goose to it, if you will, I'll turn volume 1 all the way up and leave volume 2 kind of at the 3 o'clock position. Let me kind of try to give you an idea. So that's one view. Let's go to the back side. The back is just so beautiful. It's a shame that you never really see this part of it, but yeah, those rubber bumper stoppers are in there, so you don't have to worry about getting your grimy fingers in there. Just be mindful that if you have children, make sure they can't get to that one, because if they will, if only if the amp is on, of course. Just a close-up of the front side there, trying to show you what it looks like in there, give you an idea. You can see the mirror up here in the background, bouncing off the thing. It's a beautiful, beautiful specimen. Oh my God. This little spot right there, I might try to clean that up a little bit more. It's so faint. I didn't notice it until I took the picture, and of course this is blowing up like just about the 1-to-1 size. So I don't know why I couldn't see it in real life, but now you can see it with that picture. But I think it's pretty self-evident. So this is kind of what I was talking about here on the back with the send and return level. So I'm going to tell you right now that you're probably going to end up with the send all the way down and the return somewhere in here to 1 o'clock. The higher up that you have it, the more obviously effect that you'll have come back in. But it just depends on how your effects, loop kind of works. At least with mine, this seemed to be the sweet spot. If you turn this all the way down, it will turn down the volume of the amp. So there is a point where your master volume and this do kind of interact. And objectively, what you're trying to do is get this to just north of balance point, if you will, and then, you know, use your ascend level to kind of get it into the, you know, whatever sweet spot it needs to be in. So yeah, it's not too crazy. This is the polarity switch here I was talking about. If you pull this button out, it'll invert the polarity. And then if you don't want the effects loop to be on, even with it plugged in, you can hit this, pull this button out, and that will bypass it. So these are the fun shots right here. This AI is good for at least a couple things. I burned at least a gallon of water doing AI shots today. It did a pretty good job with this one. It did some weird stuff on this next picture. You can see it did try to do something up in here. It didn't know what to do with it. I don't know why. But I like how they did this smoky background thing. I wish I could figure out how to do that. I'll work on that some more. It did a good job too with the light source and how it does the shadows and stuff too. But in either case, let's see here. We're going to turn that off, and then I'm going to go back to preset 3. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is actually, let's see here. I got to get to this one. I'm actually going to expand it out a little bit here and move it to center screen. So let me explain a little bit about what's going on here. I'm just going to kind of try to give you some rundown of what's what, why it does what, how it works, how they interact and stuff like that. So the low cut is pretty self-explanatory. It's self-explanatory. This amp has quite a bit of low end, quite a bit of thump and bump. I guess it depends on your speaker cabinet setup and whatnot. I think when you run it like this, it kind of runs itself pretty even, but you'll notice that I have the presence pretty high up as well. This presence control is super freaking duper effective. Like it's when you turn it all the way down, it doesn't kill too much of the highs and too much of the lows. It kind of just enhances the mids a little bit, and it makes it more of like a focused kind of, it like collapses. Let's see if I can get it in the shot. It collapses the ends, you know, the ends of the sonic spectrum in, and makes the mids kind of just focused a little bit more. I kind of feel like somewhere between noon and 2 o'clock is kind of the neutral zone. So somewhere in there is where it's basically out of circuit, right? When you get to about 3 o'clock, thereabouts, that's when it actually starts doing some real brightening things, brightening up of things. So somewhere, if you like your amp to be brighter, 3 to about 4 o'clock are probably going to be your sweet spot. And obviously, as it gets brighter, the bass will become less and less apparent. Once you get to about the 5 o'clock position, it gets really bright really quick. I don't think you're going to want it to be in that area, but you'll notice as you turn it all the way up, it's super, super bright, and then you'll hear this spot where it just suddenly drops. Like it'll get significantly darker. So there is a notch in there somewhere where it goes overtly bright to pretty damn bright, but you can hear it. And then of course it's smooth after that. So I like it right around the 2 to 3 o'clock spot myself. Master volume, pretty self-explanatory. Set it to taste. It is pretty touchy though. I will tell you that right now. As much as I tried to get the volume into a nice usable area, at bedroom levels, way down, and then you so much as touch it a little bit and it'll get pretty loud pretty quick. I highly doubt that you're going to get much above, you know, 9 o'clock or whatever. By about 10, 11 o'clock, you've got all the volume that you probably need for just about any situation. But I guess that just depends on you. I never really got it above noon. I don't know that you need to or not. And again, that assumes that you're going full out on the front end there. You do need all the range of this master volume as you start running cleaner levels. So if you're going to run your amp in a more clean setting, you're going to need more and more master volume, even to the degree where it'll get up near full volume. So just be mindful of that. But again, I never had a situation where I needed to get it all the way up. It's just usually higher up. But so yes, you do end up using the entire sweep of the master volume. It does depend on what your settings on the front end are. The mids, I love all my mids. That is a me thing. That may not be a you thing, but I love my mids, and you can see I turn them all the way up. This is a frameless mid control. a mid-cut control. It is independent of anything else in the amp. It's after the preamp, but before the master volume. And it's also before the effects loop. So whatever the effects loop gets is what's happening after the mids. So it should be very effective at shaping your tone as a whole. Now, it is pretty broad. Where it's at in this circuit and the way the circuit is designed, it is very, very effective. You'll hear it start to collapse some of the lows and some of the highs pretty quick as you get, you know, even to the 3 o'clock position. It does work on tightening some things up. If you got a little too much bass, it will help you kind of get some of that low out of there and, you know, kind of give you that more of a scoopy kind of sound. And it's never going to do Pantera levels of scoop. I'm sorry, this amp is not a Pantera amplifier. It will not do that scoop sound. Even if you turn this thing all the way down. I doubt you'll ever get it below noonish, but neutral on this one is all the way up. Basically out of circuit. The high cut is a little bit different. I did allow it to have some amount of boost, all right? So while it does have a small amount of boost, it's not extreme. It's just enough to get the highs to kind of wrap over the top of things a little bit. Its neutral position, which is to say that it's essentially out of circuit, is right around noon-ish, okay? It will start to cut some highs, but I made it so it didn't cut too much. I didn't want it to go overtly dark or anything like that. It's already a fairly dark amp, realistically speaking. So I tried to keep it pretty neutral. But it is on the front end of the thing. I know I split them up. It would probably have been ideal to put this guy there where the volume 1 is, but this is where it was intended to be when I originally designed it. I ended up moving the high cut control, you know, earlier into the circuit, so there was no point in redoing something. It was working just fine. So just know that this is part of the preamp. So these two here kind of run, I should say these two here kind of run concentrically with each other, but they're non-interactive. What you do with one does not affect what happens to the other one. Unless maybe under extreme conditions. The low cut does kind of add a little bit of highs back in, depending on where this is set, if you go to that extreme. I don't think you're really going to end up there very often. To be honest, it was really meant to be kind of somewhere in there. And you can run it there. It's totally fine. You can run it all the way down. It's not meant to get too dark. It's not meant to get too fat. It's meant to try to get you somewhere in the middle, but it never really gets all the bass out. I tried to make it very, you know, you have the full range of the pot to do what you need to do with. And that's more the case for the high cut and the low cut. But being that the way that they do work in tandem with each other, you got to be mindful that as you cut more highs, you're going to have more apparent bass. And as you start cutting more bass, you do start cutting a little bit of the gain out. Now, the reason you start cutting the gain out is this control is in between that first stage and the second stage there. So as you cut more bass out, that means you end up with a little bit more, what would you call it? Well, it sucks some drive out of the circuit, right? So, but it also makes it brighter. So then your inclination is to try to roll off some highs. Well, the highs, as you cut them off, will make the bass even more apparent. So you got to think of it in practical terms. If I'm cutting bass, I'm increasing highs. If I'm increasing highs, I'm reducing bass. So if you have more bass than you want, even at that setting, the answer may not be to cut more bass. It may be to just add more highs, right? So use that kind of mentality. It's not a quirk of the amp. It's just trying to think ahead of where your current problem is at. So I say that because as you reduce that low cut to get the bass out, you're probably going to find that you lose a little bit of the drive that you wanted. So just think of it like that. So the volume 1 and volume 2 are probably a little confusing to most. It doesn't work the way you think it does. You can kind of think of volume 2 as almost like a second or a number 1. I can't, there it is. Like a pre-master volume, if you will, or a texture kind of control. So what I mean by that is most all of the gain is created in volume 1, right? if you turn volume 2 all the way up with volume 1 pretty low, it gets pretty woolly. It doesn't do what you think it should do, right? You're not driving the ass end of the preamp into sailing distortion by running it like this. At lower levels, I would say run these two pretty much at the same level. They work pretty good that way. Now, if you need more gain, you know, you want more drive, I would always go first to volume 1, right? Turn volume 1 up a little bit. Now, this volume control right here has 2 stages wrapped around it, okay? So this is a dual volume, or yeah, it's a dual gain volume control, okay? So this thing has 2 volume pots in one control. So what that means is that when you turn this up, it's not turning just one volume up, it's turning 2 that are wrapped around one of the gain stages in there. That's the reason this thing can get as clean as it gets, okay? It's extremely difficult, let me tell you, it is extremely difficult to get an amp this clean. Well, you haven't really seen it because we didn't show it, but this amp will do pure cleans. It's very difficult to get it that clean and also allow it to get that mean. You heard the amount of gain that it has on tap. Very difficult. The reason it does that is because of that volume control and the way I've implemented it. So if you need more gain, reach for volume 1 first. Now, if you leave volume 2 down pretty low, that will help thin out the gain a little bit, which means you're probably going to end up leaning towards a little more bass, right? So you kind of got to think ahead about what you're trying to do, but there is going to be a point, probably right around noonish on volume 2, where again, you're probably just going to want to run these two the same almost all the time. But do play with them. There are a lot of variations in sound there, so you can kind of play with it. I just found that if you run volume 2 all the way up and try to play with volume 1, it's too woolly and too bassy in this zone here, but maybe that's what you want. I don't know. But as you knock volume 2 back a little bit, it will kind of tighten up a little bit. Some of the bass will come away, and it changes the character or texture, if you will, of the amp. Now, as you start to get volume 1 to about the 3 o'clock position, that's where you start getting into what I'm going to call the fun zone. Fun zone being more or less like the levels of distortion that we were getting a little bit ago. And if you have these guys, probably both of them at about the 3 o'clock position, that really is kind of the fun zone. From there, if you need a little bit more, goose volume 1. Now, if you still ain't got what you want with volume 1 all the way up, by all means, take volume 2 and go with it. You heard what that sounds like. Obviously, it has kind of that go-to point. And if you need more than that, then yes, of course, you're going to have to use a boost pedal. Now, going back to the effects loop, it is a parallel effects loop. So EQ, compression, noise gate, and other effects like that affect an entire signal chain are not going to work in this effects loop. It's parallel, so it's really, really good for things like delay, reverb, and other spatial type of effects and stuff like that. So just be mindful of that. If you want to do any kind of drive effects or compression or noise gating or this or that or whatever, you're going to want to do it in the front end of the amp, that guy right there, okay? So there is that. That pretty much sums it all up. Input-wise, there's only one input. There's no switches. There's no buttons other than for the effects loop. And that keeps it pretty simple, I think. There's no standby. If you turn the amp on, it comes on and it does what it needs to do. There is a thermistor in there. It is normal. It will take about the same amount of time to fire up as any normal amp would if you were to just flick both the standby and power on at the same time. There's a thermistor, and the thermistor is that slow start circuit. This amp is very, very quiet. I'll take out the input, and you can see the gain's already all the way up. So let's see here. I got master volume's cranked right now. You wouldn't be playing with it that high. I didn't even change the level on the input. That's it. There's no hum, or very minimal. That's with the effects loop on too. So you can hear the thing's quiet. It's a quiet amp. And I can tell you right now, that's not all the way off. That's all the way off. And that's just on a little bit. Yeah, the noise floor is extremely low on this thing. So it's a fun amp. So let's go back to me, because it's all about me. Hold on a second here. Let me get into my other preset view. All right. All right. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So I know that you guys were kind of chatting there a little bit, and I was kind of ignoring you, but let me get up here a little bit and see what it is. Is she looking good? Is she pretty? The bias adjust, please. Oh, good call, good call. All right, so I'm gonna do this. Display capture. This probably isn't the best one to use. Let's go back to one of mine. Right here, perfect view. All right, so you see the back side of the amp, right? You see how this one says HT? You'll notice it's a larger size probe. There's a reason for that, okay? And we'll go over that in just a second here. Let me prepare some parts here for that, actually, so I can show you in more detail. There's a reason for that. It's different for two reasons. One is safety, right? You have to use a particular type of probe for it. And I will provide that probe. It will get sent with the amp, okay? The second one is just because it's the only one that has this little rubber bumper stopper that you can get for it, right? So that is specifically for this type of connector there. This guy right there is from, what's that freaking, I can't remember the name of the DMM that everybody loves. The high dollar DMM, Fluke. That is a Fluke rubber bumper stopper for this particular type of banana plug jack. That is a universal ground right there. That is just simply ground. Nothing special about that. You plug in your ground probe there, and you will never have to change that probe out. Now, when you are doing your bias adjust, once you get your HT setting, you will go back and you will change the probe out for a different probe and set to a different voltage setting. And I'll explain that in a moment. And I'll probably have to do a video that actually shows it in more detail, but we'll go over that here in just a second. But basically this one here, you must be in the high, 600 volt DC setting. And then over here, you're going to switch down to like basically the 200 milliamp setting, or the 2 volt setting. So that way you can get what the milliamp is. So you'll keep the ground always plugged in, and then you'll plug into this one, and then this side adjusts the tube that's over here. Then you plug into this side, and when you adjust this one, it adjusts the tube that's over here. Does that make sense? So they correspond with the tube that is on their respective side. It doesn't matter which direction you turn it, just whichever direction turns it to what makes the correct milliamp. You go to Rob Robinette, you punch in what you have on your HT voltage, you find where 70% is, or 65%, I would say 60%. I have it biased right now to 60%, but whatever that milliamp rating is for that voltage, you will then set this dial so that the measurement between these 2 points and these 2 points equals whatever. Let's say 28 milliamps or whatever it might be. And then Bob's your uncle. Off to the races you go. So with that, let's get my fat face out of the middle of the shot here and shrink this down again. Something like that. Close enough. All right, so you can see here we've got 2 different DMMs, right? This is the style of probe that you need for the back of the amp. This is more or less the style of probe that I will provide for you. It's not this exact one, but it'll have a banana connection on both ends, all right? That is what goes into that HT connector. And we'll go into the HT side, not the milliamp side. We're not doing current on these things. We're never doing current. We're always measuring voltage. But you'll put it into your voltage side of your DMM, and then you'll set it for 600. You're more than likely to have this style of DMM, so I'm going to show you with this style of DMM. So you're going to set it for 600, and it's going to pop out a number. I can tell you right now it's going to be 495, 400 volts, something like that. With this amp, it'll be 400 to 495 volts. Or 395, excuse me, to 400 volts. Right in there somewhere. Okay, once you get that, and you know what it is, you go to Rob Robinette, and then you type in, and I'll show you. Hell, let's just do this. Let's make it legit. Let's see, Rob Robinette is top of my list. Imagine that. Okay, so I'm going to go over here to Rob Robinette. We're going to go display capture. All right, so you see over here, right? Well, you're going to have to pick the tube that you got. So in this case here, we're going to have EL34s. It's 25 watt. Cool. Then we're going to get into here and we're going to enter in our voltage. So we're going to go backspace and we're going to say it's 395 because why not? And then you hit the calculate button. Blam! It's going to spit out some numbers over here. Class AB fixed bias. That's what we are doing, is Class AB fixed bias. So you can see at 60%, we're shooting for 38 milliamps of current. Okay? So 68 milliamps of current, and I hope I didn't exit those out. I probably did, didn't I? Yeah, I did. All right, tell you what we're going to do. We're going to open up this guy. And of course it moves it over to that side. There it is. Blam. Okay. So that's what you're going to adjust there, is this guy. So you're going to put a probe there, your ground. You're going to put your hot lead there. And then you're going to adjust this until you get 38 milliamps on, wait for it, probably, if it's not the 2 volt setting, it probably won't be the 2 volt setting. It's probably going to be the 200 M or whatever your lowest voltage setting is. You're going to measure it until you get 38. You just spin that dial around until you get 38. And then you got to go to the other side and do the same thing. Well, as you turn those things to get them more the same, you're going to have to go in from probe to probe. And let me get the one I actually want up. Damn it, that's not the one I wanted either. This one will work. I like this one. We're going to go this one. Okay. So again, what I'm talking about here is these 2 probes. So you're going to go back and forth between this probe and that probe. You're going to adjust that knob and that knob until you get 38 milliamps. Now, what you'll find is that you got to adjust one and then it'll change a little bit of what happens on the other to a small degree. Once you get them both the same, that's great. But then what you want to do is go back and measure the HT again to double check and make sure that your voltage on that did not change, okay? So what I mean by that is, let's go back to here. Oh gosh, right? So let's say you changed it to 38 milliamps and all of a sudden this is no longer 395. Let's say it went up to 398. Let's just say it went up for whatever reason. You'll notice that it's now 37.7. Now a milliamp, well in this case 3/100 or 3/10 of a milliamp isn't going to make that much of a difference. But I guess we could go more extreme. Let's go 400 volts and see. Let's just say it changed to 400 volts. So now you can see you got to go a little bit colder. Now you're about a 0.5 milliamp off, right? So you just want to make sure that you're within the range. Objectively, you want to be within a millivolt either way of 60%. With a 0.5 millivolt, I wouldn't really worry about it. If they're both the same and you're right about 60% or 61%, you're good. Right? But if one side is sitting down at like 31.3 milliamps, that side's really, really cold. And if the other side's sitting at 38 milliamps, there's a huge difference between the two. Obviously, you need to try to even them out. But I just wanted to give you an idea of why you want to make sure you check this a couple of times, because if there's a large disparity when you first turn the amp on, let's say it turns out that you turn the amp on and it had 405 volts. You can see that now you need 37 milliamps to get the same whatever. Well, when you turn the amp on, if it's really, really cold, let's say it's down at 30, let's just say it's 31 milliamps when you turn it on, right? Well, that means you need to go hotter. Well, as you turn that up, this thing here is going to come down. So the hotter you bias the amp, the lower your voltage is going to end up being, okay? Because as you're pulling more current through the tubes, it's going to draw down the HT a little bit. So what then will end up happening is you'll end up at 395, and you're like, okay, I hit 37 milliamps right on the button, and now you can see that now you need to bias up to 38 milliamps instead. Well, again, milliamp, not really going to be a big bother, but that is why it's there, is to just make sure and clarify for certain that you are biased where you need to be biased at. That is the purpose of it. I hope that makes sense. So again, just remember, you'll take your HT voltage off your highest DC voltage reading, and you'll take your bias measurement off of the lowest voltage reading. And you'll end up probably using something like this, but you can do it with you know, these full-on digital ones too if you want. This one has a scope and everything, but I will have provided for you a connector for that purpose, because I understand that those are not, you know, typical. I cannot guarantee that it is going to work with your DMM though, so you may have to order one that fits your DMM. So like those probes that are in that one, they'll go inside of here, but they don't work properly. You can see this one's a little bit different, but for whatever reason, that probe will not work in this DMM. So you may find that you need to get a different probe for yours. Okay, does that make sense? Cool. Please distort the less send, the better. You hear the pedal distort. Oh yeah, it says. There's quite a bit of range on the send side of things. This thing, I don't know if it's just my particular effects unit. It's too washed out if I go anything above all the way off. So even with the send turned all the way down, there still is level coming out going into your effects pedal. Just know that. So you're really kind of using the return as your actual level, if you will, for your effects. The problem is that if you go too low, you're going to end up sucking the master volume down, which means you end up just having to turn the master volume back up. And you're going to find that you're going to come to this balancing point where you get the amount of effect that you want at the level that you're looking for. But if you turn that return volume all the way down, it will never, no matter how much master volume you turn up, you're never going to get it. And then you cannot bypass the effects loop either, because if you bypass it, now you've got all the master volume that was available. So little quirk, but you'll figure it out. Low budge, have a wonderful night. I hope, I know I've been yapping a little bit much, but how long do we have to make a video tonight? No, troop in. You got plenty of time, it's not a contest, but the entries are not closed off yet. I have this amp right now, and you've seen Granta's Glorious Tone in there mentioned a few times to send him a video. The instructions on how to do that are in the description of all these videos that I've been making lately. It's in the description of this video here. Just send an email to toshysweetstaffy@gmail.com. It's very simple. The video doesn't have to be elaborate. We just want to know who you are. It's very simple. This is what it's got to be. I don't even think you really have to show your face, but it would be helpful if we know who you actually are. But we want to see your rig. We just want a quick introduction, like, hey, my name is John Doe. I've been playing guitar for 25 years. Check out my rig. I got this amazing freaking amp made by Legacy over here, and this is my pedal board. But I would really love to win this amp. Bam, that's it. We just want to see that you have a rig kind of capable of handling. This thing here produces 68 watts peak, 50 watts. It's a 50 watt amp, more or less, is what I'm getting at. So obviously, if you have a 10 watt, 8-inch speaker, you can't utilize this thing. It's not going to do you any good, which doesn't do me any good to have spent 200 plus hours and a couple $1,000s building it for you. So that's why we're kind of having this little requirement. You need to be able to play this thing, period, end of story. So all we're asking is to see your guitar rig. You know, you got at least a 12-inch speaker that's capable of 50 watts or more. So we know that if you get this thing, you'll hopefully send us a video of you playing it, because it would sure be nice to get some more media out. The entirety of this series is really meant for 2 or 3 things. One was to build interest in this craft, which is boutique guitar amp, design and building. It's to garner some, like I said, attention or interest in it, garner some appreciation for it. I think a lot of people are stuffed in this whole idea that they can get a boutique amp for $1,400 and really think it's boutique. I'm telling you right now, just because it says boutique amp distribution on the box does not mean it's a boutique amp. Friedman has not been boutique in probably the last 5 to 10 years. Tone King has not been boutique in the last 5 to 10 years. At least the last 5 to 10 years. Morgan Amplification is no longer boutique. They haven't been for 5 to 10 years. Soldano's no longer a boutique. They haven't been in 5 to 10 years. At the advent of BAD is when boutique amplification has pretty much died in its sense. There's only a handful of true boutique builders out there. And that is the one that I can say I will still call boutique, even though it's kind of hard to say it, is Dr. Z. Like, of the famous brands out there that you know and praise and all that stuff, Dr. Z is probably the last of the true, you know, boutique amp builders. The 90s era generation that started this whole boutique thing. I use my quotation fingers because it started in the 90s. It started with Matchless. It kind of started with Morgan. It kind of, you know, those kind of guys. Ken Fisher, Alexander Dumble, etc., etc. Those guys that were literally doing this stuff out of their shop, out of their garage or whatnot, and gaining some level of fame because they were able to get their amps into some famous person's hands. That's the boutique era. It was the 90s. Once we get out of the 90s and start getting into the 2000s is when it started to dice up a little bit. Keep in mind that Friedman didn't come around really until about 2010. He's pretty late to the game. Friedman, his story is interesting. He was basically just not servicing amps, but like he built the pedal boards and prepped all the amplifiers from SIR, right? So his job was to put together these pedal boards and make sure all these other amps and stuff like that were ready to go out for SIR. He worked for SIR. And he was able to turn that into a pedal board company. So originally, Friedman wasn't building guitar amps. He was building like effects organization and stuff like that. So that's actually where his start got to. And then he ventured into actual amp design, if you will. It's not really amp design. He basically took a bunch of these modifications that were typical for, you know, Marshall amps by that point in time, were becoming well known. Jose Arredondo and some of those other, you know, crazy mods that everybody does, right? And then he just incorporated them into a Marshall amp. He basically was the first to really come up with a marketable and attainable modified Marshall available to the general public at a price that most people would afford. And he took it kind of full circle with that when he went to BAD, which is Boutique Amp Distribution. Once he got there, he wasn't boutique anymore. He actually used to build these things more or less one by one, and he actually used to put his hands on them one at a time. But I wouldn't say he's really designing anything new. He's basically taking a Marshall and modifying it, and then turning it out and selling it at a reasonable price. I say reasonable because, you know, $2,000 for some of these things it's not exorbitant. Enter the lunchbox craze, right? Bruce Ignator used to be boutique, and then he created B52, and now he's got, I can't remember what the other thing that he's part of. There's a lot of these things, like even Victory Amps calls themselves a boutique amp company. They're not boutique. If it's got a PCB in it, let me tell you, that is not boutique. I don't care if it's hand stuffed or not. It's got a freaking PCB inside of the amp. That is not boutique. Fuchs, I'm sorry. Two Rock, I'm sorry. At one point in time, yes, you guys used to be boutique. Now you're just another overtly expensive, you know, company that just happens to make nice, I'm not going to say bad, nice PCB-based amplifiers. Tone King, same thing. So there's very, very few remaining boutique builders in the world right now. Dr. Z, I think, is the last of that era that is still doing it the same way today as he was 20 years ago. So if I was going to give my support to anybody, Dr. Z, if you hate my ass, go like Dr. Z, give him your money, because I don't think you can beat what you're going to get for that amount of money. And I can't make him that cheap. He's borderline. He does the UL listing and stuff like that, but he's not doing PCB. He's not doing sellout models where they're made in China. He's not doing, you know, they're all made in America, but he's figured out a system where he can buy everything in enough bulk, and he has, you know, enough inventory control, if you will, that he's able to keep the price relatively low considering what it is that you're getting. I don't have that ability. You know, it costs nearly $2,000 to get all the stuff needed to build this thing. And then the time. So when I'm doing it, I'm the Bugatti, I'm the Pagani of amplifiers. It's maybe not the best thing, you know, subjectively to everybody in the world, but it's probably the best thing in the world to that person. And it's going to cost a pretty penny. So that's why we're doing these giveaways. And that's the hope, is to garner that level of appreciation for them. So there is that. At full, a raw switch. No. So Riley, just to kind of go back on the mids control here, it's a famous mid control. It is not a raw switch when turned all the way up. It's just when it's all the way up, it's the most out of circuit. Now, I did alter the circuit a little bit to make it less effective. So when it is all the way up, it is pretty much out of circuit. The notch that it has is so small, it's probably not really measurable. Which is to say that if you took it out of the circuit and put it back in when it was at full up, you might not notice that it's there. It's basically like a 1 meg, you know, dropper resistor at that point. So it's very effective though. It does what it does effectively. It's just, I kind of wish it took out a little bit less of the lows, but I think it's where it's at in the circuit that kind of makes it overtly effective. If I moved it a little bit sooner, maybe it would be, but then we would lose some of the gain that we have available. So I needed it there and wanted it there for the specific purpose of what it was doing. I know that some people kind of looked at me like I was crazy for putting, you know, 4 gain stages in a row and ending with the plate loaded or plate driven stage. Well, why do you think I put a parallel triode there? It's to buy me some impedance, right? So I can load it down a little bit more, which means I can suck the gain out of that stage more, so it can go into the master volume section of this thing without blowing or obliterating the remainder of the amp. All right. I ended up going with the split plate load even for that gain stage. So I kept it pretty nominal in terms of its bias point, which is to say that I biased it pretty much right up the middle, but I used a split plate load in order to make it so that the pick point going towards the master volume was at a much, much lower voltage than it could have been. And it still ended up being pretty high. I had 50 volts coming out of the plate going to the master volume. So 50 volts is still pretty up there, considering that it was probably somewhere in the order of 100 and something volts or more if I didn't do that. Another thing, because again, parallel triodes, so you gain some impedance advantage there. I also ran a local negative feedback loop around that tube. So a local negative feedback loop effectively increases the impedance, right? Or reduces, I can't remember. It works in the positive direction for us, right? It makes it lower impedance. It reduces the impedance is what it does. So it makes it just more able still to continue to drive even further through heavy loads, which I did put quite a heavy load on the back end of this thing. 2, as a matter of fact. A was that mid control. So that one sucks. That's a heavy load to be putting where I put it. And then 2 is the attenuation circuit. I still had to put an attenuation circuit. So I started with 50 volts coming out of the parallel triode, that second set there, the last preamp tube, if you will. And I got it down to, I think, 8 to 10 volts by the time it's getting into the master volume. So it's still pretty spanky, hotter than it needs to be to drive this thing to full power. But I needed to have that range because when you turn the volume 1 and volume 2 down to run it as a clean amp, you still need to have the sweep available on the master volume to get to the same place volume-wise as a clean amp. So there's a reason I did that. It bought me the options that I needed. So it was clever engineering, I guess, if you will, because I knew I was going to need a way to walk out of that one. Obviously, if you go back a few videos and you see the first turn on of this thing, it was pretty dark, woolly, muddy, just unusable. I did end up with some oscillations at first. As you can tell now, we can basically turn everything all the way up and there's no oscillations. Imagine that. Literally all it needed to fix that was to changed the topology a little bit. I was running 4.7 UF caps on basically every gain stage. So a lot of bass was going through there, a lot of gain too, which made it just, you know, kind of messy, if you will. But the biggest thing that swapped all the problems out was the tube that I was running into after the first gain stage. So my first parallel triode was running into pin, I believe I had it going into pin 2, right? So I ran it conventionally on that second tube in the amp. Well, and no, it's not worth showing you. You can get the idea. You can kind of follow along with me. In a vacuum tube, a 12AX7, there are 2 triodes. And triode 1 is generally, it's the fun one, I guess, if you will. It's got the most noise, probably the most gain. It's just a fun one. The number 2 triode is actually the quieter, the more tamed down, the less noisy version of the two. Even though they both technically perform at the same whatever. Well, I ended up having to switch from triode 1 over to triode 2 as my second gain stage. So all I did was flip that tube basically around. That resolved all my instability issues and all the squealing and stuff that I was having, all that fun stuff. It's crazy to think that moving a wire literally that far, I mean, just, you know, the thickness of your finger made all the difference in the world. Another thing I did just because it made sense to do it was I did move my negative feedback loop. I was playing with fire, putting it where I had it initially. I moved it to a different spot and that ceased to be a problem as well. So I can't say that it was an easy fix, but it didn't take very long to come to the solution. That's all I can say about that. Now, circuit-wise, that's where all the hours were put in that you did not see. I probably put in, there was a week that I basically didn't show my face. And inside that week, I had spent probably a good 40, 50 hours getting the topology dialed in on this thing. I basically did in 1 week's time what I've been doing for almost 2 years on some of my other amp designs. More or less, I've put all my efforts to making this happen like right freaking now. And I was lucky enough that I built a similar amp to that topology-wise earlier this year, and I had success with that. That will be another option that I'll have available. It's more or less a Trainwreck Express. My other amp is pretty close to what a Trainwreck Express is, sans my own little things, and the fact that it's actually a 50-watt amp, not a 30-watt amp. A Trainwreck Express is done up in such a way it's probably realistically only a 30-watt amp, even though it has 2 EL34s in there. But mine's a true 50-watt. It's meant to be a 50-watt. It works like that, but it's she angry. Well, that's what's in this one. It's basically a Trainwreck Express modified and done up in my own little way. Again, we got a parallel triode fronting it, so that's different in and of itself. I do not use a full tone stack, so that's different in and of itself. I'm using a slightly different tone control situation in it. The staging is just done up a little bit different. The voltages are, of course, different, so there's a lot of little differences in there. But then it goes into a 4th stage, right? So we got our input triode, we've got our 2 other triodes that make up the remainder of what would be a Trainwreck Express, and then we land on another parallel triode. Those are 4 gain stages. That parallel triode on the ass end, it was meant to do 2 things. One was, as I already mentioned, kind of get me able to push the remainder of the circuit the way I needed it to. But number 2 was to try to act similarly to that of like a phase inverter. A lot of people don't know this. I spent a bit of time trying to figure out what it was that made a Trainwreck Express tick. I have figured it out. I can make a stable Trainwreck Express any day of the week now. Let's just say I feel that I did with the Trainwreck Express that Ken Fisher wish he was able to pull off. Something repeatable, something that is under control, but yet still does all those things that you want it to do with a master volume. So I think the closest thing to it would probably be Third Power. I think Third Power, they have an amp that's basically a Trainwreck Express, and it has a master volume and a bunch of other switches and stuff like that. I think we're kind of working down the same avenue, if you will, but more or less, that's what I think I figured out is a Trainwreck Express type circuit that has been found just like stabilized, if you will. But now I'm able to repeat it. So that last parallel triad was meant to try to act like a phase inverter. The phase inverter is very important. This is the little secret I'm giving away. In the Trainwreck Express, the phase inverter is a very important part of it. Believe it or not, a lot of the gain that you hear in one comes from the phase inverter. When I first built a Trainwreck Express, I made it almost part for part, and I went to turn it up. Not only was it very thin and ballless, but it was like out of control long before you got all the way up on the volume pot. And luckily, I have what they didn't have years and years ago, which is a Torpedo Captor X, right? So I can run the amp the way you want to without impunity because you can't, there's no volume in the room, right? And oh my God, it was absolutely just obliterating the output section. By the time you got any kind of distortion out of the actual preamp side of things, like the output section was literally getting obliterated. That's why they are so unstable. So that's also why the master volumes don't work so well in them, is because most of the people try to put it just either, I guess it's not really a pre-phase master volume, but that's what some people will put in there. But then they'll just try to implement like a post-phase master volume. But they don't change anything else in the circuit. Well, the rest of the circuit is part of the sound. So you have to change things in the preamp to make it work when you're trying to work it like that. That's what I figured out. So I adapted it, if you will, to this one. And as you can hear, it will do that thing to some degree. It's definitely not a train wreck, but I'm just saying it has some of those bones in there. A lot of my own stuff going on. So this is a one of one. There are no others in the world like it. There probably never will be. I don't know. We'll see how people feel about this thing. I kind of feel like this will be, I want this amp. Put it this way, I'm already starting to think about picking up the parts to create another one so I can have one for myself. Not only is it beautiful, it's fun to play. That's the biggest thing, is just fun to play. The cleans, I'm not going to say they're the best cleans. It's not my magnum's opus on the clean side of things. It does a clean thing. I'm not going to say it's the world's greatest pedal platform amp on the planet either. It'll, you can put pedals in front of it, but as an all-in-one amp that goes clean to mean, there you have it. I want one though. It's that kind of fun. So let's move on down the thing. I'm building a switchable 2x12 to 4x12 to run on various impedances. I'm debating on whether or not, I'm trying to get you, okay. I'm going to go back and forth a little bit. I'm still getting caught up with all your things here, but I know we're starting to lose people too. I apologize, but it's just how you got to know. If you're here, you got to know about this amp you're possibly going to win. So I thought about doing like a masterclass thing. I don't know that I'm prepared to go there yet. I kind of feel like as time goes on, I do have my membership program. My membership program is meant to try to be more honed in on these specific things that we're kind of talking about. So within that, series, if you want to call it that, or within that membership program, I will probably put these more pointed things like making a 2x12, 4x12 with convertible impedance selections and stuff like that. My 4x12 cab that's underneath this, the D7 currently has a 16 ohm and an 8 ohm switch on it. The 8 ohm switch is meant to only, it's a stereo cab. That's all I mean. So you can run it at 8 ohms and only have one half working, or you can run it at 16 ohms with all 4 of them working. It's loaded with G12T75s from the 90s. So I got some vintage speakers in there that I think helps a little bit. It's not the world's greatest cab. I like it because it seems pretty neutral. And by neutral, I mean just kind of flat. Like, It doesn't seem to have any kind of EQ curve that's overt and colorful or too colorful. So if it sounds too bassy coming out of this thing, it's probably too bassy. If it sounds too bright coming out of this thing, it's going to be too bright. If it sounds like there's way too much mids, it's definitely way too much mids, etc., etc. It's really seems to be a good cab in that regard. When I design things around that cab to sound good, it generally sounds pretty good in everything else. Sans things I can't control. But going the other way, trying to get used to more mids at this age. Those mids aren't as nasal as a Marshall. I don't know, like, I love my mids, but I don't like the nasally 1K honk. Marshalls, I don't think have as much balls as this one naturally does. I could be wrong though. I haven't come across a Marshall yet where I've had enough bass in it to be happy. They always seem to have, they're pretty thin, is more or less what it is. Too bright for being, they're just too bright. So then you suck down the highs, which leaves you with enough of the mids to have that honk and that presence in the mid-range there. But then you're always wishing that you had some more bass, but by the time you start turning the bass up, they start getting flubby and just woofy and woolly. So you end up leaving it thin, which I think is what makes those things sit so well in a lot of the rock mixes, is by the time you get the bass guitar in, it's melded in really, really nice and tight. I tend to make things a little bit on the bassy side, I guess. I don't know. I just like it to sound full. Getting things thinner is generally a little bit easier after the fact, right? It's just got to sound good in your natural space, and if it sounds good in the natural space, then you can generally get it to sound good in a recording and stuff like that. All the people that have these amps of mine, even though I kind of tune them all the same way, they seem to be pretty happy with it. This one here does have a fair amount of balls considering how this amp works, so hopefully not too much, but you never know. I like my mids though, just not too much. I like the low mids. I like that woody sound. I think this one's kind of got a nice woody sound to it, but no, it will never get the honky mid thing, I don't think, unless you use something in the front end to get it there on purpose. Let's see here. Jackie Lee's, what's the problem with, okay. So Jack Lee, there was some misunderstandings, some early warning signs that were picked up on that were noise but not the signal, I guess, if you will. So when I say noise but not the signal, I mean that noise is just, you know, these things that you hear, right? Shh, it's the static, but the signal that you actually want to hear, that sine wave in the background that actually means something, is buried in all the noise. So I think that's more or less what has happened, is there's more noise going on than we can hear to get the actual signal that we want to hear. That makes sense? So I think he's already apologized. Yes, he has. There we go. All right, cool. So now I got to start going down here because Tone Priest is in the house. Everybody's been in the house, and I'm like way behind. I'm sorry. Let's see here. First day on the internet kind of people. What's going on here? Trooping. Trying to get used to more mids. Let's see here. One of those obtuse, difficult people. Internet kind. Okay. Back and forth, okay. A lot of reading on tube amp stuff, and there's something about this style that's easy for me to understand. Hey, cool, man. I'm glad it was able to help. Services imminent. Tone Priest, make them show their face. Looking to get building someday. Long road. Manufacturing, so there'll be BS on this. Yeah, right? No, it's definitely bull crap. Sorry, I'm just getting caught up here. When I was making rigs for stars. What? Works in manufacturing. This market is being, yeah. Okay, yeah. A 10-second video works. Don't forget why, yeah. Bartell Rift amps. So Rift amps, I like Rift amps. Chris is a cool cat over there. I think he's actually subscribed to this channel too. I'm subscribed to him as well. He is obviously very much boutique. He's not, I guess he's, how do you explain it? I don't know, because he still does repair. A lot of his business is repair. I know that he builds amps, and I know he has several designs, but he does kind of one-offs and stuff like that too. So he's definitely a boutique builder, by all means, and obviously knows his stuff. So I'm a huge supporter of him. I just don't know that he'll ever... I'm trying not to speak for him. What I mean is that given his current business model, I'm not sure that he'll ever transition fully into amp building, as much as just always having like a department for repairs. I think that's a big part of his bread and butter right now, is still like the repair side of things, which means that, you know, it's hard when you're only putting out maybe an amp or two of your own every once in a while. Pay attention to this. Yeah, no, I try to spit out the stuff. I mean, there's more than just Dr. Z. There's more than just Bartell. There's still a lot of them out there, but it's just, you know, off the tip of the tongue. Right now in UK, there seems to be a huge movement of boutique kind of rising up again, not only in just the amp world, but in the boutique pedal kind of world too. I can't remember the name of the company off the top of my head, but the Hello Sailor Effects or whatever. He's made a couple of amps, I think. More kit style, I think, if I'm not mistaken, but still, like, you know, he does good work. Tone Priest here is doing some stuff. He's been playing a little bit. I think he'll come a long way too. So yeah, there's a lot of boutique companies out there. It's just the ubiquity and fame of them hasn't quite gotten there. Like, I'm not there yet. I don't know that I'll ever be there, but since we're on the topic, you know what I mean? So, send you a picture of the PCB I designed to learn. So far, oh, I wish I was a better player. I fiddle fart around. I don't know. I have a tough time just playing songs, mainly because, I mean, it's such a mess on YouTube these days. Like, Lord knows if I'll get a strike even for just playing the bits that I did. I just don't like tempting that kind of fate. So it's like, I guess I just don't bother with it, right? I'll push my luck on occasion because I think I can get away with it, but truth be told, I don't know that I'd ever try to do a full-on like cover song, just because it's so ugly right now. It's weird. Walk at the dogs. Oh, hey, hell yeah. I can't afford the plan. What do you mean you can't afford the plan? How many watts? Oh, so this thing here is 50 clean watts, 68 peak. And now I think I'm actually caught up. 50 watts with headroom, yes. Now I'm all caught up finally. Woohoo! I'm not sure what I missed on a couple things there, but Low Budge was in here a bit ago, so I hope I answered all your questions. If you got some more, please do let me know. Now that I'm up to speed with everything. I will tell you this. I don't know what it is. The hardest part is still the freaking cabinetry on these things. Like, as much as I try to make this part of it simple to build, this is the hardest part. And it's just because there's so many little things in it. Like, I try to get everything to within like a 32nd of an inch, and, you know, with like the faceplate being stuffed up against the metallurgy and having the walnut veneer on the inside, make it so it's square to everything. Like, that is some work, let me tell you. A lot of pre-planning goes into making that happen. I know that Riley was, he was shocked that I was able to get the holes in the right spot on the bottom of the cabinet. And I can show you with another, you know, failed attempt here, kind of what happens. So, oh man, let's move it over here. So obviously you can see here that this was a failed attempt at what I had going on. But this is what I was doing at one point in time. So this was for an amp that I decided to not do this style of layout. So this channel right here was routed out so I could put the pillars up. And then we would have the actual sides of the amp there. this is where the electronics would run, right? So this is the front side of the amp, and the electronics would run, and then get so that I could share the lighting, so that I would have the lighting in this little pocket that was on either side of this. I didn't like this because it was too wide, okay? And I guess, hold on, I can change views here so it doesn't look so weird. So I don't know what happened exactly. I think I biffed on one of these corners here or something like that. Like, that's obviously biffed. And I ended up using this. I don't know what it is, but you can see, like, these holes are there already. So all I do is, you know, I have the chassis, I measure the holes out, and then I put these things in there so they're close enough. And then I just make them a little bit oversized. Just a little oversized, right? So that's the thread, right? So underneath, I've got just enough play either way. But this is the trick. So when you put the Tolex over it, right? When you put the Tolex over it and you poke a hole in it, you can't see the whole hole. You just see that there's a hole there. So when you take this thing and poke it through, it kind of self-clears it, you know, where it needs to be. And it just works. I don't know. So you don't need a whole lot, but between all these holes here, I probably got, what, nearly 1/8 of an inch either direction of play. So at least a minimum of 1/8 inch either direction. So if I'm off by a little bit, it's no big deal. A lot of that has, again, some sort of dependence on the level of work that the gentleman, so he's not around anymore, which is unfortunate. So the guy that I had that was making these chassis, like this one that's in this amp here, he's closed his shop doors, which damn really bums me out because he does a great job. I hate dealing with wood. I love wood. I mean, if you can't already tell, I love wood. This is one of my first, this is the first amp right here. This is the one that started it all. So this is hand pocketed right there. So that's an inlay right there. These are inlaid on the corner there. That's sandwiched, right? So this is pine, mahogany, pine, walnut, mahogany, walnut, pine. And then of course, when I started doing everything, I was just like, okay, well, I can't have the raw edges. So I put these in on the corners. I put in a wood face piece, and then I had to pocket this around, you know, pocket that thing around this thing. So that's why that other design kind of worked out the way that it did. All right. So all those fun things, and you can tell that this is the original amp. See, it goes through the inside. But then I actually put a thing up there. You can see, just to make it carry through the amp, I put the thing, and that's where I hid the wire. You can just barely see it down there on the lower right hand, like right in there. You can just see the wire poking through. It's hidden underneath that 1/4 inch chunk of walnut that's there, and it goes all the way around the back and into the inside of the amp. You can see the blind Chicago nuts that I put there for the handles, right? So it's all those little things. This cabinet took over 3 months to build, right? I'm never doing it that big again. This is a solid chunk of mahogany bound all the way around with walnut. It's held in by 2 screws on the bottom. So those are pretty long. They go almost all the way up to here, right? So those make sure that my pillars aren't going to break. Very clever design here. Yeah, let's play with it. We're here now. I'm down. It's been a while since I've taken this apart. You can see I didn't even bother redoing the back plate. It was all the same anyway, so I left it alone. But I thought this was clever. Let's see here. Let's watch. This thing isn't going to come apart because it's like glued itself or something. We're going to find out like right now. Okay. Oh, now it jumps off. It's on there. There it goes. So watch this. Bloop. So it butts against the face here. As you can see, had to custom make those. That's all the way around trimmed. Right there is where the electronicals come up this piece right here, goes down that trim there, and that's where it pokes out at the front there for the LED strip that you see. All right, and then there's a little module in there to make this so you can change the lighting. These tubes are easily 6, 7, 8 years of age. They got some igniter tubes in there, but look at that. That's the mirror. And then you can see I just put little dimples in there. And then these screws align with those dimples. And that's what keeps this thing from falling out. Ta-da! That is a lot of the engineering that goes into these things. And that's the biggest pain in the ass part of it, is trying to make it so most of this stuff is hidden. Like these screws being behind the feet here. So you can't see them from the front or the sides or the top. And then it's easy to, you know, take apart, all that fun stuff. For the most part. I try to make it easy anyway. But this amp has been on many a stage at this point. But thank you. 6-7 invoked. So yeah, a lot going on here. But this amp is fun. I wish I had a different handle, but this is a beautiful handle. I just wish it squashed down. But yeah, this one has a classic tone transformer in there. That one's a stock China one. It works great. This was a China kit. This is the Maz 18 or whatever they called it. MAZ 18. I think it was a Marshall something or whatever, but little things like that. I wish I had another one I could show you. I kind of can. Let's see if I can make this work here. It's not going to be easy, but just showing you kind of more what's going on. So this guy here is the giveaway amp, right, or whatever. So this one was a really clever design. Still has the mirror in the back. I'm still putting the LED up on the top at this point, so moving the LED into the sides was an evolution, if you will. Man, I got something bonked on there, but the way that this one comes apart, you just lift up from the front and come on, boop, magnetic. So I got all the little magnets in there, and then the little fascia piece just pops out, right? So it just sits in there like that. But that's how this one was done. So this is kind of what you can see is the evolution of that other one. So I just try to make it clever. This is a 5-watter. This thing is fun. This thing sounds amazing. But yeah, this thing just pops right in there. And Bob's your uncle. And then the magnets just boop, just pops right in. Backside, very similar. I did not like these leather corners. This is before I found the other ones. This is the back. It's all, you know, it's layered, right? So it's a piece of pine underneath a walnut chunk there. But it's made to basically hold itself in place. Yes, I do have a Celestian blue in here. But the back, nice little handle. Boop, just pops right out. Right? This one, the mirror's a little bit dirty, but now you can see what the backside is. You can see here, this is where the lighting comes out. And down in the side there is where all the electronicals are. Right? So all the electronicals are down in there. Right? So that's where most of the energy comes into making these things. But this thing is very cool. Very cool. And it just pops in there. I just love it. But again, if you look and see, that faceplate fits exactly inside of the routing pocket that I created. You see that? It fits exactly inside of this. You can see I even had to leave it so that the faceplate would clear this. That is why these things take so long. Is engineering all that stupid kind of crap into them to make them one of a kind and special and unique. We'll do more on this amp one day. This thing is, now that I got the blue bell in there, oh my god, this thing is so much fun. It is an amazing, gosh darn it, it's combination. I do not have the purple hazel here, So the purple hazel is yet another evolution of kind of all three of those that you just saw, except for this on the purple hazel, like this amp here. Ooh, excuse me, it's a real show now. I have the LEDs on the side, so the thing is edge lit, but I still was using the channels. And that's kind of what brings us back to this guy here. So I was having, you know, this was the support for the main part of it, and then I still had the outside, right? But I didn't like how wide this was. And then I had to use, this is the part that was killing me, I had to use 2-inch thick or wide walnut. It was 3/4 inch thick, and you want to talk about painful to build. This is a beautiful piece of walnut. Look at that. Look at that shimmer that it has. Oh my God. And it's such a bummer because they banged it up in shipping. I'm hoping in this stack, the matching piece to that is in there, because that piece right there is worth its weight in gold. Just that, what do they call that? The chartreuse or whatever. But that's why I had to get away from that design. Was I was literally eating up chunks of walnut like that, and I just couldn't bear to do it anymore. I'm trying to become a little more, what's the word for it? Sensitive, I guess, if you will, to waste. And, you know, because you screw up a few chunks of walnut and you really start hating yourself. Like you start to feel like a pile of shit person. Stainless cake pan, let's go. Trying to fix that now. That's my fault. I can totally, yeah, dude, that's all you can. If you can build something, you can do this stuff. More soldering gear. I will say that the soldering equipment that you use does help, but honest to God, most all of my builds started off on these guys, these cheap little. Those are my first soldering irons. That one's not a Radio Shack one, but this one's a Radio Shack one. Those are vintage now. But those are, you can do it. A 20 watt is all you need. With a 20 watt iron, there's not much you can't do. But, sorry, just kind of cleaning and tidying things up. Let's get this guy put away here. So, okay, so the fit and finish is amazing. Yeah, right? That is the hardest part to do. Again, to reiterate, like the cabinetry is the hardest part for me. Do I own a Marshall? No, I do not. Although, keep in mind that this guy here started life as an 18 watt Marshall. My friend down the street owns about half a dozen of them. He's got a JMP, a 1987X. He's got a DSL and a JCM 800, and I think he's got pretty much all of the higher gain versions: the 1987X, the JMP, the DSL, and at least the 800, JCM 800. I think he even had a 900 at one point in time. But he's got 4 Marshalls, and I got to play through one of them, and it just doesn't compare. Like, against even this guy here, there's a little lowly 18 watt, and he brought out his JMP, and it had one of those little, those mods, like the things that you put 2 tubes in it and then it goes into the 1 tube socket. I can't remember what they call those things, but it adds basically another gain stage to it. He had one of those in it, and even gained up with that, it was on the verge of feedback all the time. It didn't sound all that good. And then you plug this thing in and turn it up, and he's just like, fuck, man, I want one. He's all, make me one. So now that's where the Purple Hazel came to be. That's his favorite amp. That's his #1 amp right now. So yes. My champ clothes is in an upside down stainless case. Yep. Still have my Radio Shack one. Hell yeah! Fucking Radio Shack for the win, dude. It's buried away somewhere right now, but I still have my Radio Shack. So when I first started doing sound many years ago, obviously we needed to have sound pressure meters and stuff like that. And my very first one was a Radio Shack one. I still have it. It still works, at least to the best of my knowledge. I got a couple Radio Shack things and some vintage stuff. But Let's see here. Any Amish builders in your local area? Yeah, right. You know what? I'm not a fan of the whole dovetail thing. I don't really know that it is stronger, considering the amount of effort that goes into it. Mine, I try to do this sort of thing with. So you can kind of see here where I've got the lip. So I do kind of a similar thing. So when I put it in there, I've got two sides, and then I use screws still too. So I'm all about them screws. And that thing has a bunch of screws in it. That back panel, that back panel is only yay thick, but it's got probably 8 screws in it. Like, that thing ain't going nowhere. Spent Electrons is in the game. I love it. So, all right. I love it too. You guys are awesome. I love this engagement that we have right now. Can do the Zakk Wylde thing? No, I don't think it'll do the Zakk Wylde. This one's not a high gain amp by any means. It's just when you get it dimed all the way up, it kind of does that thing. You guys want to play? You guys want to try it? Want to see what it does? The effects loop is going to come out because I don't have an effects loop for that amp. I'm going to undo that. So I'm going to go away from any kind of monitoring. All right. So this guy is out of the picture now. Let's get this guy in the picture. I'm not sure what it's going to sound like. I might have to sit on the side and like put in my earplugs or something. I apologize if I'm making noise in the mic here. It sounds funny. And if you wouldn't mind going in, just got to put a little hair around it apparently. All right. So let's see here. Let's change the view here so you can actually see this thing. Yes. I know we heard a yes in there. All right, so I'll square it up to the shot. I think, no. There it goes. I think I moved this camera at some point because it's should be over a little bit more. Let me see if I can get this in the shot. That's what it is. I'm just in a little tight. This one's a little bit wider is what it is. Wider meaning that it doesn't matter. So this one is 19 inches. That one is like that a little bit wider. All right, so let me make sure everything's plugged in. That's good. Blam. Same here. Turn off this light. So that's what it does, lit up. I like the internal light a little bit more, but some people don't. I don't know. I like it. That's my thing. Not allowed to copy that, Riley. I know what you're thinking. That is a me thing. You can't do it, okay? And I do see noise. You hear noise. I know that you do. I apologize. All right. I do not know what it sounds like, though, so let me get some ears on and work out some things here. Bear with me for a second. We're treading new ground here. I don't even know if the level's good. So, oh yeah. Too much. And we're out of tune. I can tell that much just by hearing it. All right, hold on. We got to tune it. Now that's with no effects on, of course. All right, now let me get it so we get some effects back because it really is nice when you got the effects. So I'm going to turn on my two notes torpedo thing here. Let's see here. I think we got effects back now. So this is like a twin tracker and a just a reverb, nothing crazy. So let's see if that works and all that fun stuff. All right, so that is what the amp sounds like with nothing but preamp gain. That's all phase inverter distortion. So what I'm gonna do is turn off my mic here and I'm gonna play around with that a little bit. I'm gonna put that into high gain mode and I'm just gonna futz around with it and get it into what I think is the fun zone. So bear with me for a second. I'm gonna turn off my mic and I'm gonna futz around. There it is. All right, so I don't know about you, but can your amp do that? That was dimed. It's a little woolly when it's dimed. Oop, wrong light. There we go. Fun amp, right? It's a little woolly. I mean, it's rock. It's freaking rock for sure. So that's what that's what this one does. This one is a fun amp. I wouldn't say it's practical to run it there. I usually end up with the master right around the 3 o'clock position and everything else just dimed or bass to taste. It's obviously cleared up when we turn it back a little bit. But that last little segment there, that was with humbuckers. Now with single coils, it does tighten up a little bit, but that's what I do. All right, let's see. Very high. Okay, I think it sounds great. Yeah, I think it sounds great. I don't know. Let's see. Do you guys want to hear a different one? You want to hear another one? We're doing this now. We're here. We're only 2 hours and 25 minutes into this thing, so we've got plenty of time. If you want, we can get another one in there. I kind of want to show you just because I'm proud of it, but you can't see the bottom of it because it's very yucky at the moment. So I got to make it so it's hidden. Let's see here. This is my 50 watter. And that's a real 50 watts. We're going to put that there. There's no lights in it, of course, but let's see here. That's correct. I need this power. And we are in the off position. This light will not come on because I have it in this guy actually. Yay! We get more. We get more. All right, let's see here. This one is a freaking beast. And it is set, I think, in the go zone. I'm going to leave the lights on because I have not played it yet with this particular guitar. So let's see what it's going to do. Again, that light won't come on because the bulb is missing from it. I just need to put another bulb in there and I haven't done it yet. That's all. Let's see what we get here. I see glowing glass. That's a good start. You notice that the master volume is all the way down. All right, so I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna turn off my main mic here. I'm gonna tune again first though, because this thing has gone out of tune again already. There we go. All right, let me turn off my mic and we'll just fiddle fart around again. Hey, check. Frickin' thing, turn off. I think I've done noise cancellation bullshit now. Yes, it worked it out. All right. So as you can tell, that one's a little more ornery, a lot brighter. This one's basically a train wreck. That one's pretty much the train wreck. But as you saw, we can dime it. You can turn it all the way up and it will hold together. So that's what's unique about that. And as you can tell, it gets pretty ornery. Now, it does not do cleans very well. At least not to my level of cleans. I guess I haven't really showed you what my level of cleans are, but in either case, I think we've done enough for the show and tell today. But yeah, right? It does the 80s thing for sure. But yeah, right? It's not high gain. If you ask Andy, that's not high gain. I think it's definitely high enough gain for me. It's got way too much. So I try to make the amps, I try to design my amps to be usable. I try to make them so they're each a little bit different, of course, as well. So this one, of course, has, you know, many things about it that are similar in regards to the one I just showed you, but also not exactly the same. Obviously, this one's, I think, a little more under control, if you will. But I don't know, like, it's a different amp, so it behaves differently. But I think this one does a better clean. It's just not my idea of a favorite clean. I don't know. I'm picky about my cleans. My idea of clean is absolutely clean, but I like buttery, I like bubbly, I like pristine, I like that sparkle on the top. I like having the right amount of air and all that fun stuff. It's hard to get all of that and get an amp that'll do that level of gain, let me tell you, because that's what I've been working on most of the time. So, but yeah, I was more raised on the, what's that 50 watt based off of? So that last one that I just showed you, not this one, but the last one that I just played, is more or less a Trainwreck Express with a lot of my isms in it. So it's got a parallel triode fronting it up. Obviously some circuit tweaks, different voltages, and it's designed to run ideally with EL34s as opposed to the original Trainwreck Express, which had more of like the not 18 watt. It had a 6K6 output transformer, and it was really meant for 6V6s, but they, you know, he had a setting in it so you could put EL34s. But again, the way that he runs the amps, you're really not hitting the output section. You saw on that one too, even when it was dimed, it's not like it had more or less gain. It just was louder and a little more rude. So the output section really isn't getting, let me rephrase that, the output tubes aren't really getting bludgeoned to death in those designs. It's all, a lot of it is in the phase inverter. In his original thing, though, it was kind of the other way around, where you were bludgeoning the output section to death, the entirety of it. And I've kind of worked it around to get them all to kind of work in tandem, if you will. So, yeah, right. So, rat, wasp, dog, and all that shit. Yeah, that one will do it. It's a mean one. What's nice about it too is that it does that train wreck thing where at modest gain levels, not where it was dimed all the way up, but at modest gain levels, you can actually get it to do the clean thing when you roll down the volume. So it'll do clean, convincing clean, and then you can turn it up and it'll go into that soaring, ripping lead, but not really change in volume all that much. Pretty hard to do that, let me tell you. But that amp, you can't see the guts too because it's in an ugly state. It's in not a very pretty state right now. I'm half tempted to bust out the little 5 water since we're doing show and tell today, but that one's a little bit, I don't know, that one's just not, it doesn't have, there's no gain in it. Like, it doesn't distort. You need a pedal in front of it. That one's more one that you do kind of in the room sound with. So enter Rolling Sandman. Yeah, this is a giveaway amp, my man. So if you're not, you know, if you're not interested in winning that amp, let me know, but you can win that amp. It's free, more or less free. You're gonna have to work out the shipping, you know, situation, but it's better than buying one. One of one. There's no other one like this in the world, I tell you that right now. This is one of one. Most of my amps are 1 of 1 right now, except for the 18 watt. There's about a half a dozen of those things rolling around out there. So my 18 watt, the one here, that one's my, what do you call it? That one is still kind of my flagship, if you will. It's just the most settled design. I love it. It's fat, it's thick, you know, it just roar. So a 5 watt amp, wow, tight. No, 5 watts is great. Dude, that's more than enough volume in a 5 watter. Hold on. We're already doing show and tell, so let's get it out. This one we're not going to plug into the whatchamacallit, but I will plug it in and we will listen to it in the room and you will see that it gets plenty mean. I gotta remember where I plugged the thing in. There it is. I am going to make it so the effects go in there though, because it is one of those kind of amps where you want the effects. So let me rewire some things here to make it so the effects work. How's that? So we're gonna go in here, and then we're gonna go out from this, like before. Come on, thank you. And I want this to come around this way. Okay, so that's gonna go in down there. And then what else we're gonna do? We need this to come to me because this is what's gonna go into the guitar. All right, and then I need to turn this off. And that needs to get turned on because that's not on currently, although it should be. Oh, that's why. Okay, cool. The reason I turned it off was so I could reset the effects for the whatchamacallit. All right, there's that, there's that, there's that. This is gonna go away. We no longer need this. Cool. Now, plug in the guitar. And this one will just be louder in the room, more or less. Not much. You can't see it, it's down on the ground here. One vital step is missing from the equation. You kind of have to plug in the other thing. Imagine that. All right, so this is that is turned up only a quarter of the way. So this is halfway up on that little guy. That was a neck pickup. All right, let's turn it up a little bit more. So now we're about 1 to 2 o'clock, and you can hear it starting to break up a little bit. So now I actually got to turn off the effects. That's no drive pedals. That was just... And this is dimed. Now, this This is where it gets fun. I want that. A little bit of compression and a little Timmy. So I turned it up to about 3 o'clock. I think it's plenty loud, but it is definitely a more rounded amp though too. It's got kind of that honk to it, which is kind of cool. It does that 5-watt thing. And it's basically like an Epiphone Valve Jr. The Robert Cray, yeah, it'll do that for sure. It gets plenty loud though. Like I had you can't tell, so hold on. You can't. It doesn't do you any good if you can't see it, I guess. Sorry. Should have just a lot of things, but it's probably not in view. No, it is in view. What do you know? You can't see the sides because it's green, and the green screen's making it kind of hide away. But as you can see my arm through the what should be the edge of the thing. But that thing is a fun toy. It's a little bit round. It's still got that brightness in it. It wasn't helpful because it was on the floor, and you know where I'm at, look in the room, it's just kind of messy, but fun to play. It'll do the infinite sustain thing with the pedals, and there's no better way than to just show you, because why not? Because why the frick not? Where is that thing? There it is right there. Let's get this guy. Where did I just put that thing? There it is. Sorry. Kind of all over the place right now, but I'm excited. I get to do show and tell. Right? I love show and tell. Show and tell is fun. Show and tell is fun. Alright, so this is like a little Moore pedal. Right, so it's compressor pedal and a little more like it's the 2 rock amp or whatever it is, the Coral. It'll almost get you there. amp to play. It will do anything and everything you want it to. With some, I don't know, it's just fun. I don't know. A lot of fun. I like to see how long things will ring out and if it'll continually go. The other night I was playing around with it and I had things a little more dialed in for it to suit it. Right now, that is not the case. I didn't have it up on here. Lost a lot of bass being up there too. So that's a good trick. If you're looking to decrease the amount of woof and bass, get your speaker up in the air a little bit. That helps a lot. So yeah. Anyway, I think we've had enough of the show and tell. Oh, what do we got? What do we got? Any other questions about that guy? Let me get this thing back out of the mix so we can get back to our focal point of our share. This is all about the giveaway amp, not all the rest of this stuff. So that the little 5-watt that you just heard was actually a that was built for a fundraiser. I got it back because the guy who won the amp in that fundraiser happens to be a good friend of mine. And he gifted it back, not gifted it, it's still his, but he gave it back to me to use for this kind of stuff, you know, basically as a litmus test type thing. So, I had to go to the bathroom before we started this venture 2 hours and 48 minutes ago. I kind of got to go to the bathroom now, so I think we're ready to start wrapping things up. I can already see some of you are leaving the chat. But, if you could change on this one here, if I could change any one thing, right now, I don't know that there's anything I would change about it. To be honest, it's pretty cool where it's at. I think if I were to do any kind of refinement, I kind of feel like what I would do is just go to switches. When I say switches, I mean make it so that way it has, like this first gain stage straight into the phase inverter section would have been absolute tits. Like it would have been the clean channel that I was looking for. Ask me how I know, because that's what I did at one point. But I knew that we weren't going to get away with that. I wasn't making a channel switcher. So, nice. You got to catch him while he's fishing, and then you got to catch this one to make sure that you get all the noise and details. You got to get all the deets. But, so yeah, if I were going to change one thing about this and its build, I would make it a switch. I would make it channel switching. So you'd have a proper clean and a proper mean channel. I don't know how I would make it work because I don't like using relays and stuff like that. I would probably try to make it in such a way where I'd have to add another volume control, but I would probably put it on a dual concentric pot so that like volume 1 does what it's supposed to do and then volume 2 does what it's supposed to do. But inside of volume 2, we would have a dual concentric pot. And let's see if I have one available to show what that actually looks like. And no, because I put it away somewhere, didn't I? I probably put it away because I do not stare at it. No, that's not it. Where the hell did I put that thing? Well, I had it out, now I don't. So, you don't get to see it. Where did I put that thing? I thought I left it more readily available, but I guess not. In either case, a dual concentric pot has a pot within a pot, right? So it's got an outer ring and an inner ring, and you turn the inner one, you get one volume, and you turn the outer one. Whereas the dual gang pot has 2 pots, but they're connected together all the time. So, classy. I try to be classy. So my whole onus is on the clean side of things. if you can't have a good clean sounding amp, then you're probably not going to have a good dirty sounding amp. It's really difficult to do the low high next to each other. I guess I could do that. Mr. Cavalier, we're gonna have to talk later. Sorry, my man. That is an option. The only reason I did it like this is because layout wise, again, that's muy importante. Layout wise, the mids needed to be at the ass end because the mids are technically the next thing in line to the master volume. So that is why it's that way. Now, I wish layout wise it would have worked out to move the high cut to next to the bass, but technically speaking, the way that this amp was laid out, the volume 1 and volume 2 needed to be there. And then it just worked out that I was able to wrap the highs over the top of it. While it doesn't look, visually appealing that way, realistically speaking, it kind of works really well. And what the hell is going on with my backdrop here? I'm noticing some weird oddities. It's because I move stuff. I think. Nah, that's fine. Whatever. So that's why. Good analog effects pedals. Hell yeah, man. Yeah. So this one will do it. Like I say, it does clean. It's just not, it's not the most glorious clean that I've ever produced. I'm going to get to the other side. I feel bad because I'm talking to you, but I'm leaning off and you can't see my face. I feel like I need to talk to you. Now that you've got my face, you're going to get my face. So, there's that. Here, and I know a way to help my situation out there. Oh, imagine that. That's the one thing. Layout wise, I don't know that I would change it, but I would definitely put some switches in there. I would want it to be a hard switch though, so basically it would just switch the circuitry, where it just swaps it in from or out from that point. I don't know if I'd have to use a relay or not. It shouldn't require the use of a relay. Ooh, I don't know. I didn't own a jazz chorus. Over the years, I've gotten to work with them a lot, and I kind of like them. I think they're pretty cool. I don't know. Like the gain sound of them isn't as great. Like I think they're really meant to be kind of a clean amp. But the one that I got a hold of, it was an older one, more vintage, I guess you could say. 90s era, maybe early 2000s. That one, I had fun playing it. The dirty, the grit side of it, no, not so much. But, I mean, you can't beat the chorus that they have on those things. A popping pot. Journey into high watts, their history, and I'm looking into it. I can't say that I'm sold on this one yet for the output section. Now, do keep in mind, this one's output section is straight up DR504. From the master volume of a DR504 back, it is 100% high watt. I didn't change anything, except for the amount of filtering and the voltage on the whole of the circuit, right? So the filtering, I increased almost twofold. So I have just about double the amount of filtering. The voltage is a little bit lower. So I think on the DR504, they were at least probably 450 volts on the low end. I think I've heard some people say as high as 500 and something volts. I'm not running that insane. I'm running more like 400 volts. So different way, different direction. So that changes things a little bit. But voltage wise in the preamp side, it's pretty much par for the course. Like I didn't veer too far from that. Obviously different transformers. So, I mean, that's kind of says a lot there. The presence circuit, I think, is what makes a high watt do what a high watt does. There's a little bit about the presence circuit that I don't like, and there's a little bit about it I do. And there's a little bit about the driver circuit. I'm using my quotation fingers, the driver circuit of the phase inverter for a high watt that I like. And there's a bit of it that I dislike. The parts that I dislike are mainly because, how do I explain it? You essentially come out of the master volume and go straight into a normal triode. There's nothing crazy or, it's just a normal gain stage triode, right? That's it. Well, because of that, you have more than enough gain. Anything that goes into that master volume section is getting amplified for sure, which is immediately then followed by a cathode follower. The cathode follower then drives the remainder of the pi circuitry. The pi itself is a fixed bias type of unit, so it has a little bit more headroom, It has a different kind of sound to it. It breaks up differently, all yada, 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 right? The whole nine. Breaks up differently. In theory, depending on how loud you turn up the master volume, you essentially have another gain stage after the preamp. If you want to think of it as two separate sections, right? Because you got your preamp, then you got a master volume, but then you got another triode with a cathode follower. Think plexi, right? It's kind of like a plexi, if you will. So once you get through that, that's kind of through that master volume, that's what you're left with in that regard. So it reacts differently to a lot of different things. But that presence circuit, I think, is the big part of what makes it work the way that it does. So the presence control does actually boost highs, but it's got a lot of negative feedback in it, in that loop, which means it really reins in and normalizes or linearizes that output section. So the bass is, it's there, but it's tamped, like it's really under control. The highs, they're there, but it's tamped, it's really under control. And that presence control, depending on where you turn it, allows you to get more of a kind of like a mid-focus kind of sound. It doesn't touch the mids, but it rolls off some of the lows and a bit of the highs. And then you get this kind of focused mid-hump, if you will. But then as you turn it up, it will actually boost highs. It's not cutting highs out of the loop. It's actually re-injecting them or allowing them to get boosted, if you will, into that section of the amp. So that's a huge part of it. But it is temperamental, I guess, to say the least. So when I mean temperamental, I mean that it is extremely dependent upon where you put it inside the amp. You got to make sure it is a mile away from anything and everything that you don't want it to get near, which is part of the challenge with it, because the way that the amp is laid out, you end up running this cable that goes it wraps around the whole of the freaking amp. It's kind of, and I'm not a fan of the high watt layout in that regard. Some of it makes sense, some of it doesn't. Oh, hey, we got another possible player in the game. I like that. Yeah, relays, I don't know, man. It's not that relays sound bad. Relays are technically the better way to go if you're going to do any kind of switching. Those, what do they call them? The Vactrols. Those ones are scary. I do not like Vactrols. They work because they're clean and noise-free. You can actually work on the ramp in and out, so you can actually get it to fade in and fade out without pops and stuff. But you have to measure the absolute living crap out of them to make sure that it's doing what it says it's doing, because they can change the sound of the circuitry. I think that was a big part of the problem with the Crate Blue Voodoo. I think they just stuffed whatever was in there, and it changed, not any amp is the same. And I think that's probably going to be the biggest fault to Soldanos over the years, as these Vactrols become less and less ubiquitous, and the quality control goes further and further down as they become less and less popular. So how are you going to change something that you can't get anymore? And even if you can get it, it's not accurate to what it used to be. You have to have somebody that can tune it, and that's not typical anymore these days. So it takes a few minutes. Yes, a little selfie video showing off your guitar rig. Hey, this is what my current head and cabinet combo is. Obviously, you need to be able to accommodate this guy. 50 watts. It's a solid 50 watt amplifier. It's not a toy. So we ask that you don't have, a little baby toy 8-inch speaker that's capable of 10 watts. You better be able to do better than that. Let's see here. I want to find out what's going on here. Oh, okay. Hell yeah. So my friend's texting me, so he's looking at getting a cabinet and a speaker combo to go with things. I'm just gonna sit here now. So I hope that answers some more questions. The high watts layout in and of itself looks beautiful because it's laid out pretty smartly. I don't like the way that they did the board in a more linear fashion. Let me show you what I mean by that. So here's what's left of a little board that I had for something I was working on. And you can see everything's kind of in little rows, right? Well, Hiwatt did everything in rows, vertical, right? Just in a row. Well, the problem with that is that this part here and this part there might touch each other, but the only way to make them work in a flow is to have a wire that comes down to touch this other side here, right? So, you know, same with another resistor that's over here. Maybe it's got to touch this one here or something like that. Well, you have to run a wire that goes up and across to get from this point here to that point there. All right, so you end up with all these jumper wires all over the place. Now, while it may be non-incidental, and it looks beautiful because you can't see all those jumper wires, that does not mean it's an ideal layout. Whereas I try to do things where things crissy-cross the least amount of times possible, if you will. So while I'll have parts that kind of converge, if you will, so I don't have to run a jumper from here to here, I'll try to make things lay out in such a way where it just makes sense and it falls and lands where it needs to. And then again, I wonder if I have, hold on, let me do something here. Let me see if I have a picture of the guts in this thing, readily available. So bear with me while I search the interwebs for my own pictures. I don't know that I do. Not in that account, I don't. Let's see if they're in this account. I don't think so. What is this picture of? That is not it. So it's not in that account either. It's probably not going to be in here either. Dang it, I just shared it with freaking, whatchamacallit, with Grant recently. So you know it's going to be in here somewhere. Hold on, just bear with me. I know I have it. Sorry, couldn't help myself. Hey, there it is. Okay, found it. All right. Oh, did I piss something off? I think I might have pissed something off. Oh, I pissed off that video. Oops. And that's a hell of a face to have too. Hold on. Here, we'll turn that off and see. Nope, I gotta get that camera to come back to life, apparently. Let's see here. Well, I got green light anyway, but it's not talking. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Let me see. I'm gonna break things and then we're gonna fix things. We'll see if that comes to life. Anyway, let me get you to what I was going to show you. So this here. So this is my layout. You can kind of see what I'm talking about here, where it's a little less linear. Now, this is just a different angle, but you know, I got things going across. I've got things kind of in these spaces here, and while there is jumpers, you know, going back and forth, I've tried to minimize the amount of that kind of stuff while still keeping true to the whole topology, if you will, of not topology, but layout style, or whatever you want to call it, for that style of amp. And I'm looking to see if I have another picture in here, and I'm kind of shocked that I don't. I need to get it on this device. I haven't done it yet, is more or less what it is. But so this is as good as I got. So this was at my friend's house that I was talking about before. So this is not my house, but that's the corner of the purple hazel there. So that's one of the amps I built. This is a Marshall cab there, another Marshall cab underneath it. There's actually another Marshall cab back here, and atop this amp is a stack of 2 or 3 Marshalls. And then on top of this cab, there's another stack of 2 or 3 Marshalls. So he's got all kinds of fun stuff going on. So let's see here if this camera has come to life or not. I don't know that it has. It looks like I pissed it off royally. But I'm going to come back over and... yeah, I definitely pissed it off. I don't know what the hell I did, but I pissed it off. It's still stuck on that same view. All right, let's just break things entirely. So we're going to do OBS. There we go. Perfect. I think we just... Hey, we got it back. All right. It's in the wrong orientation though, I think, but whatever. Let's get out of that. Yes, I want to save. Okay, sorry. Let's see if this thing's gonna work here. It's not going to preset 2. It's like it lost everything, so. There we are. All right, anyway, it's all about me. All right, any other questions while we're here? Let me see here, where are we at? Why not just ground the back plane and then not give a shit? Because it doesn't work that way. Grounding is an important, I want to say it's the most important part of how an amplifier is built. Okay, so let's try to quantify that a little bit. So in this amplifier here, there are, I think, 4 grounding points. Count it, 1, 2, 3, 4. So let me get up to that again here. So one of the grounds is literally right underneath this guy here. It's somewhere in this range in there somewhere. It's right here. So see that little turret right there? Directly underneath that is a grounding point. Straight across over here and to the left, there is another grounding point. There is another grounding point, which is the safety grounding point that is, I believe, down over in here somewhere. It's down there, right? So that's 4. And then I have another one that's actually up here at the front. And that's for this particular tube right here. You can't really see it because it's buried down in there, but that's 1 grounding point. There's 2 grounding point, 3 grounding point, 4 grounding point. I think there might actually be 5 in here because I think I had 2 over here, right? But everything has a place and a place for everything. Does that make sense? So you can't just start grounding everything to the same point. It doesn't work that way. That's how you get ground loops. So that's why it's not just so simple as make it look good by doing X, Y, Z. You have to do it in a sensible fashion, if you will. So that's what I try to do. Sometimes I'm successful, sometimes I'm not. But in the end, I always work it out. So I work it out. I'm really trying to find that other picture though. Let me see if I can find, maybe it's in my emails. Maybe. I want to go to my Gmail. Sorry, bear with me. I want to find the down shot that I had. Okay. Did I send it to him? I saw the video. He showed me some other things. Ooh, he showed me some of his work. Well, nope. All right, I give up. That's enough. So back to you guys. Grounding is important. That's what we need to know. Layout is important. Again, you're trying not to cross as many things as you can, because the more things that you cross over the top of each other, it's just one more thing that's going to cause a problem. Things do talk to each other. If you run 2 wires next to each other, if there's something going on this one and something else going on this one, there's inductance between the 2, and it can cause a thing. And now I'll turn my nose at the bus wire across the pots. Yes, do not use the back of the pots. Oh my God, you want to talk about something that irks me more than anything on the planet is seeing an amp that has a bar go across the back of the pots. Let's see if we can find a good example of that. Let's just go, we're going to do JCM 800 DIY amp. Let's see if anything pops up. No, we're going to DIY gut shot. We'll do gut shot because that's going to clarify what we're looking at. Images. Let's see here. Let's see if I can find a good example of what not to do. And it's going to be difficult. There we go. Is that it? Yeah, that'll work. And it's a big one too. So we're going to go open image in new tab. There we go. Let's break this one down a little bit. So, bloop. All right. So what we're looking at here is pretty much bone stock JCM, probably an 800 or something like that. I don't recall exactly what it was, but you can see what they've done here. I don't know why they did that there. That's just yucky. I don't like that. But you can see here that they then ran a bus wire all the way across and then they run everything to it. Now, would you care to believe that the backside of this pot is connected to the chassis at that location and that the backside of this pot is also connected to the chassis at its location, etc., etc. So now you've got all of these pots right here connected to the chassis at their respective spot, but then they also got this wire that goes along the backside of it. Why do you even need to bother using that wire if you could just take this thing and run it over to the next nearest ground, which would have been over here, right? Take all these wires, converge them together. You might as well just join them together and then run a single wire up out of that little hole right there. It's there for a reason. We don't know what for, but then up to this guy, which is a ground, and then connected to the back of the pot. Well, because if you did that at this point too, you now have whatever these guys are referencing to going to this point, which is referencing differently than where this pot is, which is also connected to ground at some other point. Like, you do not want to have what they call ground loops. Ground loops is any way that this ground here can touch another ground over there, but still have yet a second path back to it. And in this case, that's exactly what you have, except for now you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, however many different paths you can possibly imagine to get back to this one point, because you still have this pot here as well. Little things like that. Using pots is not ideal. This looks like maybe the backside of that other shot. Let's see here. That's a nice big picture. Yeah, it looks like it's the same one. So let's go to this one. Let's see what they got going on the back here. So there's a ground spot right there. It looks like you can see this thing's jumping off there. I do not see where the safety ground goes. It better not be to that point. The safety ground. So if this is the ground here, which it looks like it should be, that one should go to its own grounding point somewhere else, preferably away from the remainder of things. But it looks like it's sharing it. Looks like it's going to here based on what I can see. But I don't know. I don't know. I see a green wire down in there, but I don't know. Because there's also this one here, which looks like it goes to that. I don't know. It's tough to say. It does not look like they did a proper safety ground in here. But you've got a ground that goes to here. You've got a ground that goes to there. You've got a ground that goes to there. You've got a ground that goes to here. That's a lot of grounds. That's a lot of grounds. That's not an ideal way to do it. It's just not an ideal way to do it. Let's find another one here. Let's get you out of there. Ooh, this one looks pretty messy. Let's break this one down a little bit. Oh, what? Oh, you bastards. Hate it when they do that. It said totally different size. And I'm not going to bother. We're going to move on to the next one. Some of these don't look half bad. Let's see. That's another whatchamacallit style. Well, let's see here. Let's just do JCM 800 gut shot. So this is like a bog standard one here. And that is that same one. So we're not going to bother with it. I seem to find that one a lot. That might just, I don't know why that one seems to be the hot topic. I think it's marsh amplification. Like whatever Marsh is doing, that's like the absolute best way to do it. This looks nice and clean though. Let's open this one. See if they actually did it. No, this is a Black Star Artisan. So I believe this is the one that AC owns right here. So this is what it looks like inside. It's pretty well laid out. I prefer doing the heaters this way, although I don't understand why you wouldn't just rotate the socket, 90 degrees and have everything pop off the top, so you don't have to run this thing up and through. As you can see here, you got a plate wire that looks like it's coming down and across. But I do like how they kept everything nice and clean. But you see this ground spot right there? See how it's sharing something over here? That is a no-no. So this guy right here is the safety ground that comes off of the receptacle there. And then it comes out and around and it goes down to this point there. But you can see that there's something else going off this way that's grounding with it. That is an absolute no-no. This safety ground shall always be on its own. We cannot see what they did with the back of the pots, but I'm going to will a bet that it's safe to say, based on the number of ground or black wires I see going across, that they're not sharing the backside of the pots. Hopefully they're not, but it looks like they're not because I can see that they've got independent ground wires going across. One can hope that they didn't. But this is a pretty clean layout, and you can see how they ran all the jumpers on the top instead of on the bottom. So you can kind of see some of the crissy-crossy action going on. Now, this is what I try to avoid doing, and this is why I'm talking about why doing the linear thing isn't so fun. If this is indicative of a high watt, this is what's going on underneath all these little jumpers, right? Against the law of sharing. Yeah, exactly. This is a no-no. Do not do that. But you see all these little jumpers? That's what's going on underneath the high watt. It's not that much different. So, not ideal. Well, so I've said it before on a couple of my other videos, but let's just imagine there are 5 ways to do something, right? 5 ways to do the same thing. One of them is the absolute wrong way to do it, and one of them is the absolute correct way to do it. The other 3 will work, okay? So which one's the absolute right way to do it, and what are the 3 that will work? Because remember, that 5th one is the one that, you know, is not right at all. That is the question. So good and good enough and the best are different things. But will it work? Sure. That doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it works. But this gives you a visual idea of what's going on underneath like a high watt board. But again, linear. I try to do it in such a way that you get less of that. You know, why not just make it so this part here touches that part there, right? So move this thing in such a way where it gets over to where it needs to get to. Because there's probably some other jumper in there anyway. It probably jumps over to that guy, is what I'm guessing. I could be wrong, I don't know. It looks like it jumps over on this one at least, for sure. I think there's a jumper between these 2 and these 2. All right, so they could have moved this thing on the other side of that and then had it jump directly over to here. There's all kinds of different ways. There's an almost infinite number of ways that you can do these things. Which one's right? The way I do it. I keyed. I'm trying to look for shit shows is what I'm really looking for. They missed an opportunity to goop those jumpers, right? Or to heat shrink them properly. This one looks pretty hellacious. It's not a very clear image, so nope, that ain't gonna work. I wonder if we can do this. This is a Sierra tone build. Oh, that's gross. So this is the proper way to do a bus bar. If you're gonna do a bus bar, get out of here. If you're gonna do a bus bar, this is the appropriate way to do it, but this amp was built by a 2-year-old. That's pretty hellacious. Will it work? Sure, it'll work. But when we start talking about bad and right and all that fun stuff, that's kind of one of those things we're talking about here. I'm trying to visualize what they got going on here with these output jacks. I'm seeing a problem. I don't know if it's actually a problem or not yet. I don't want to put my foot in my mouth, but there is a proper way to do the output jacks. This is an artisanal Black Star, right? It harder to service? No, I don't think so. This is actually going to be easy to service. I mean, you can see where everything's at. This is, honest to God, as far as a corporate, you know, large company amp goes, this is very clean. This is rather clean. Is it the best? No. Is it horrible? No. They're not using, you know, dookie parts. I don't like that they're using carbon comp in here. I don't like that, but whatever. I mean, I have played this amp before. And I will say that I was quite impressed. It wasn't great. It had some quirks to it, but it was, as a Marshall goes, it was a really nice Marshall. It was a little bassy for my tastes, and I like bass. But I think with the way that this amp works, they could have done a little bit to tune some of the bass out of it, and that would have made it really just pristine. But it was a great amp. I'm not gonna lie. I won't knock it. When it's right, it's right. They did a good job on this one. As a Marshall goes, they did a great job on this one. They just failed in a couple spots. That's one of them. But on this other picture here, the ground needs to go from So that black wire in there, I'm pretty certain is the one that needs to go into here. And I can't tell if it comes up into here or into there or where it's going, right? But there is a proper way to ground the output transformer. And the way that it needs to be grounded at all times is for it to go straight to the speaker. You do not want it to go to ground first. You want it to go to the speaker first, and then from the speaker jack to ground from there. Okay? That is one of those little factoids that a lot of people miss. You want the ground reference for the output transformer to start with the speaker first. You want to give it the best opportunity to go to the speaker first, and then from there it needs to go to ground, wherever that might be. It's hard to tell in this amp. Here's another thing I'm seeing that might be not good. It looks like they're possibly using the it almost certainly looks like that they're using the bolt for the power transformer as a grounding point. Absolute no-no. Do not do that. You do not use the transformer as a point to ground things at. So don't use that lug. I don't know how many times you've seen it or heard about it, but transformers tend to go loose over time. So one of the most important grounds in the amp should not be I have not seen Delana. Is she the third power lady? I think she might be the third power lady. I don't know much about third power. I know they've been around for a little while, but I don't know much about them enough to say anything, you know, with opinion. So don't do that. And according to what I'm seeing here, it's looking like they're coming off the receptacle, going around, going to this point right here, which is like a triple no-no, because they're also sharing that ground with this point over here. So they're sharing multiple grounds at the same point, and it's also supposed to be the safety ground. Absolute freaking no-no on at least two ways there. So a lot of things about this, and not to mention the wiring is kind of scary. Again, going back to will it work? Sure, this will work. Will it make noise? Hell yeah, it's going to make noise. Will it sound great? Fuck yeah, it probably sounds amazeballs. But is it right? No. Is it proper? No. Okay. Yeah, okay, I did see that the other day. She seems like a nice lady. I don't know much about their history. I wish I could say I did know more. I know that Joe Satriani, is it Joe? Yeah, Joe Satriani is like one of their core people now. So let's keep digging some more of these things apart. What is this guy? They got it so right in so many spots and then failed in all the others. Freaking Imgur. What the fuck? That's not where we went. A bad link. Looks like a bad link to me. I guess you can probably see enough of it here. All the wiring, horrible. They did a pretty decent job up here on the top side, but the wiring looks atrocious. We don't do that. And then this point right here, this is like the epitome of a star ground right there. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I just can't tell what goes where. At least they did not use a bus bar across the back of the pots. That's good. This one looks like it's in a state. Ooh, this one looks kind of cool. Let's do this one. Yeah. Okay, he's using high quality parts. He's got a nice, good layout here. He's using a bus bar, but again, if you're gonna do a bus bar, this is a more appropriate way to do it. So notice here that it's suspended above everything. I'm not sure how he's connecting it to the pots, but it looks like he took the third lug, bent it up, and then twisted it around so that this bar would go through them. That is kind of a clever solution to that problem. I don't know if that is the absolute best way. Every time you bend these little pins here, that could be a problem. But if it works, it works. That's a clever solution to that problem. Obviously, he's not completely finished yet, it looks like. So as builds go, this one's looking pretty clean. Obviously, we can't see enough to see what he's done down over here in the power section, but I like it. If he continues with that level of quality, I think it'll be good. Or would be good. I'm almost certain that it will sound better than probably this one. This one, damn. shared ground. Everybody does that. I don't know what it is. They just love sharing those grounds. It's not good. Don't do that. Can't see how he grounded this thing here. If I'm looking at this, I don't see two wires coming off. That would be an absolute no-no. It looks like it's coming down to here and grounding somewhere, but maybe that's what this other wire is. So that would be correct then if you did it that way. But then again, looks like the wire is just kind of getting zipped across the top. There's all kinds of freaking ways to do it. There's all kinds of different ways to do it. What is this? This is a crab. All right, so this is one of those other boutique companies that everybody's going on about these days because they're affordable, this, that, and the other. It looks like a fucking crab too. Clever layout. Crab is not boutique. I'm sorry, but when you see these pile of shit parts like this, these, you know, radial caps and a PCB and these cheap little chiclets, that's crab, all right. You get what I'm saying? There's, well, at least they're using real relays, PCB mounted pots and jacks and stuff like that. Like this is, you can't say this is handmade. I mean, it's signed on the inside by the owner of Crab Amps or whatever. It's not boutique. This is a Friedman. This is the modern stuff here. If it would focus in, I don't know if this is ever going to fix itself. Let's see if this, nope, that's why it's done that. Let's see if this one cleans up any better. Maybe not. This is another Instagram post. Yeah, 225 by 225. So this is PCB. Look at this. Want to talk about something somebody said they would never do? It's a PCB mounted, what? PCB mounted, what? Tube sockets. Absolute hellacious no-no. Like, we all know that that's a no-no. This is the modern layout that they use. Everything's all kind of, everything's a PCB in there. We're using radial caps. Those are, that's actually a connector down there. So these are all connected via a connector. So it's got one more connection point down in there. Looks great, right? Pile of shit. It's made to $1 amount. The modern Friedmans are a joke. They are a joke. And I say that with confidence. This is Sloan. I don't know much about Sloan, but it's not super clean. I can't really see enough in this image to really know. Let's see if we can get in on it. It's using cheap parts. I don't like that. So he's using like the little chiclets. I'm not a fan of the chiclets. He's got these, you know, this bus bars here. They're jumping all over the place. Whatever, I guess that works, but I don't know what this kind of crap is down here. I don't like that kind of stuff when I see it. But that's not to say that's the way it comes out of his amps when he builds them. I don't like this. So see how those output jacks there are mounted directly to the chassis? That's kind of a no-no. Again, you got to think of it, that's a ground plane. So they're technically grounded there. And then he's got another one that goes off to somewhere else. So that's kind of like a no-no. But at least he's not using a bus bar across the back of the pots. There's a ground point there. Looks like that's where it's completing at. And I don't see anything else that's alarming except for... No, that looks right. That's only one single point there. These just are hanging out in the air. I don't like that, but whatever. Looks like he's doing like a elevated... I don't know. I can't tell what that is. If I had to guess, it would be like a humdinger type circuit or something like that. But it's kind of cool. He uses eyelets. There's nothing wrong with that. Eyelets are fine. I'm not a fan of these chiclets and this kind of activity there, but wild stuff. Well, and I'm sure maybe they're Panasonic or whatnot, but it's just, I know for a fact that it's not good for the leads to bend off like that, and then for this thing to be floating in the air that way. And I mean, that is a Nishikon. So, I mean, but this is better if you're going to do it this way. That's a Nishikon, so that's good. But when you start running these caps like that, with those flimsy leads that way and not tying it down to anything, that's not necessarily good. I'm almost positive these aren't Panasonics. Those look like chiclets to me. Little cheapo, generic ones. But I could be wrong. I don't know. I could be wrong. I can see he's using metal metal oxide in these positions here. That's good. There's nothing wrong with the resistors he's using. I don't like these guys. Those guys are bullshit. And they're not suspended or held in place with anything. Those things are heavy. These things do rattle around. And I have seen it happen many a time where it breaks at the either there or somewhere in the middle of the lead somewhere. These things are not ideal for what they're being used for there. And I know this amp isn't so old that he can't use the modernized, whatever you want to call it, words, like the lighter weight, you know, reduced mass stuff. They make 5-watt reduced mass resistors specifically for this purpose. Mallory and Vishay, yeah. Yeah, bars across, yeah, absolute pain in the ass. Grid stoppers, why didn't he use a tag board or tag instead of hanging the resistors? I don't know. I don't mind hanging the resistors, only because the wire itself is pretty lightweight, and I put one of the ends of it is completely supported anyway. It's one of those things where if it breaks off, it's probably time to get in there and do some maintenance anyway. So I try to tuck it away in such a way where it's kind of self-supported. But maybe it's something I don't know. I haven't had a problem with it yet, I guess. So I smacked a sweaty head in the basement of house. Oh no! Wiring the piping hot. Damn, that sucks. Okay. Let's see here. Let me get caught up again. Yeah, it looks like a Friedman. Double grounding is lazy for sure. Cool. Well, let's keep going here. Let's see here. Let's get away from the JCM. Let's just go boutique amp gut shots. Let's tear some boutique amps apart. I don't want you to think I'm like hating to hate. Like, that's not necessarily what this is about, but there are just certain things that, you know, like this is some pretty nice good stuff here. This is definitely like a home stereo style amp, but that looks clean enough. This looks like a Fender. It's definitely a Fender. It's got spaghettios going on there. Gosh dang it, that's too small. Can't see nothing. Get out of here. What are you? This looks like another spaghetti mess. This looks like it might be another Fender. Gosh dang it, Instagram. Sorry. I just want to see a large scale image of something. I'm trying to find some of the modern. Yeah, we're not going to do that. What are you? Took apart my 64 custom Princeton reverb. This looks like it might be a redo. That doesn't look horrible. And it looks like a Fender for sure. Fenders are just known for their spaghetti wiring. I don't know what it is about that, but... Oh, Morgan. Hey, Morgan, how are you? This is a Morgan, by the way. Do you see that? Do you see what I'm seeing? Oh, fuck you. Let's see if just going in on it makes it... Oh, freaking Facebook. Mezza Barba. I'm not a fan of Mezza Barba either. They're made out in Italy, so they're expensive for being expensive sake, but it's not really all that good. Okay, let me rephrase that. They're good amps. They're cool amps. They sound great. They have a lot of wiring faults in it. Like, god damn, we're just gonna lose on all these images. Here we go. This is what you want. I know this is small, but this is, let's see if it'll let me get in on it. Of course not. Fuck you, Pinterest. It's not all about you. So this is BC amps, if I'm not mistaken. This guy here, I would love to wire my amps that way, but it's very difficult to wire them that way. Because I would, all the values that I have, I like to face them up so you can see them. This is, of course, a high watt, but we've already talked about that. This guy here does some really nice stuff. I don't know what that's of, but that's some pretty cool work there. I like that. He does all that kind of stuff, right? It's beautiful work. BC Audio though, man, that guy kills it. This is a 2-Rock. So this is when 2-Rock used to do it true boutique style, okay? Once upon a time, they used to do it a little bit more appropriately, and they used the door skin as the turret board, or the eyelet board, if you will. So this is back when Two Rock actually was a boutique company. Again, I'm not going to talk to the quality of sound. There are some things here that we don't like these things, but I don't know that they had reduced mass resistors available at this time. This is probably like a 90s era, late 90s era, early 2000s probably, I'm guessing. I can't remember when he stopped using the door skins as the turret boards or eyelet boards or whatnot, but they used to make some really cool stuff. Now everything's all PCB. I'm not a fan of it. I got no respect for him anymore in that regard. This is a modern matchless. This is where matchless is gone. So even matchless has gone away from being a true boutique. And they used to do stuff kind of like this here. You know, this is more radio style for the era, right? But now they've kind of Johnny Carson's and the spaghetti right? Oh, he's using a Recon? Which one is that you're talking about? Oh man, where are you calling me from? Oh hell no, we don't do that. I got my work phone in here and they're trying to call me from some other country. Doesn't work. I can't remember which picture it was, Riley, but yeah, it was probably the Friedman. Maybe that spot right there or something like that. What is this guy? Why are the pictures so crappy today? This is on Facebook. Let's see if it lets us see it. There's your Recon, or whatever the hell that thing is. It's kind of like a Recon. It's definitely a voltage. So this is a Metropolis. I don't know much about Metropolis. I know that he recently shuttered due to illness. He's one of the OGs in the game. He's using the Wimas. I'm not a huge fan of the Wimas, but at least most of the other ones are Vishays. Looks like he's using the good Nishikon stuff here for the other radials that he's using, or axials, or whatever the hell they are. This is good work. I'm trying to see any of the essential no-nos. So see this guy right down in here? See that? That's the safety ground. You'll notice it's on the side of the amp. There's nothing wrong with that. It's on its own. See these guys here? These are some of the reduced mass stuff that I was talking about a little bit ago. More appropriate for how they're hanging them like that, right? They're just lightweight and they, reduce mass, right? Makes sense? So, but this is a Morgan. Golly, that's what Morgan used to be, actually. This is what Morgan used to be. And yeah, let's beat up on Morgan a little bit here. All right, so this one looks like a nice big picture. Let's see if we can get in on it. Oh, yay, we can actually get in on it. Yay. Okay. So what do we see here right off the bat? The no-no spot. Shared grounds with the safety ground. Absolute no-no. That's one of the big things that's a no-no. I'm not a huge fan of flying leads like this, whatever, but you can see that he did not even bother to straighten out all the leads. Right? Like the wires are all kind of crooked. All these things are just in there. It's Morgan amps are what I'm talking about in terms of ooga booga. I make amp, right? It's just ooga booga. They work, they sound fine, but they are just slung in there. I don't like this kind of crap here where they put, caps over or resistors over the top of caps and stuff like that. Jupiters are nice. There's nothing wrong with them, but like this guy here is touching. You couldn't manage to straighten that out. Little things like that, right? I don't know what an RFE is. That's what he seems to be using. It's just crazy. He's using CDM. Those are great. That's nice. That's another CDM, so that's cool. But here we are using the back of the pots for things that shouldn't be used for the back of the pots. Ew. Yuck. That's the kind of stuff I don't like. He ran all the wires off the top there. Nothing wrong with that, but and then he's got 1, 2, 3 different brands, maybe 4 different brands of capacitors in here. I don't know why. I don't know why you would need 4 different brands. Pick one. F&T makes all of these, so why not use F&T? I don't know. Let's see if I can find some of Morgan's modern stuff. There we go. This is Morgan's modern stuff. Does it look familiar? Does it look... God dang it, you mother trucker. Let's see if we can get in on it. Oh, I hate when they do that with the no link. Urgh. And we're not going to get any pictures on that because it's on like literally the 13th freaking page. All right, well, we're moving on. But you can kind of see from this that it looks very familiar. It kind of looks a lot like the modern Friedman stuff. Maybe this one. This is a gear page, so let's see if this one... I love that material, though. I want to find that. This is actually the Chiliwick material. Chiliwick, I think. Somehow or another, he got in trouble for using this and then found a way to get it so you can use it again. This is actually like a wall covering material. Pretty cool stuff. I'd love to use that. But if you look here in on this picture, you can see it's a PCB board. This is a PCB. Sorry, it's a PCB. And even still, like, can't straighten the freaking wires. You got some weird activity going on there. You can't straighten any of the freaking wires. But you can see the PCB traces underneath there. It's a PCB amp. Right? It's a PCB. It's an eyelet board with PCB traces on it. Looks like he fixed a couple things. That's his very watt crap. I can't tell from here if he did his grounding thing correct. Where does your safety ground go? It almost looks like he's still doing it wrong. Let's see if I can get in up there. That's the safety ground. It looks like it goes to here. And if that's where it's going, he's sharing all the grounds off of that one safety ground. So even being UL, CE, and all that crap listed, he still pulls a no-no. This is what I'm talking about. It's like those little things. Those are bad, bad, bad. No, 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 just no, no. Again, you're supposed to be isolating these from the chassis so they don't share ground with something else somewhere else, right? It's the little things that make the amp what it is. And that right there, you fail already. That's what Psionic was going over or on about in his video here that you see. So that's kind of the evolution of Morgan. They kind of started out right. Man, you mother trucker, dude. Gear page. Maybe they actually show you the image. Probably not, because it's just, come on. Oh, it's the same thread. That's why. Okay, never mind. All right, whatever. You gotta get it. I'm done bashing for now. We don't have to bash anymore. I'm over it. So, I hope that answers some questions. Well, especially in the age of YouTube certified. Yeah. I don't know. Like, there's just, when you get to that level, right? When you are, you've got distribution, worldwide distribution, and you've got, CE, some sort of UL, ROHS, and all those kind of different things, and you can mass produce these things. When you have little mistakes like that, to me, that is a huge, it's like they don't care or something like that. That's not something that difficult. Like, I know it, you know it, everyone else out there pretty much knows that you don't share that ground. And as you've seen, that's the most common thing that we see wrong with many of these builds today, is sharing that. Oh yeah, right. But I don't know. It's just those little things. I don't know much about welding. I used to be a welder many, many years ago, but obviously you can tell I did not turn that into a career. So, struck by lightning. Yeah, right. Trash vests. I don't know if you've seen, let's see if we can find it. Let's just see if we can find one. What is it, gentleman's name? Tracy Guns. Tracy Gun Amp Gut Shots. Let's see if we can see one. I think this is one right here. Oh my goodness. It's on Facebook, of course. Let me see if I can even get it to come up. Oh, what do you know? We can actually get this one to come up. This is a Tracy Guns amp, everybody. That's Tracy Guns. That's his work right there. Just saying. Just saying. And he's doing it again. First thing. Pow! Right in the kisser. Come the fuck on. Wait. No, wait. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I can't. It looked like something was coming off the other side. I apologize. I take it back. I was wrong. At least he's got that ground only in that spot. He did that right. Obviously not a single lead in this thing was straightened. It just came out of the box that way. He used the back of the freaking pots. Oh my God. This is these huge mofos, not even facing the same direction, just floating in the air. It looks like a 2-year-old might have wired this thing up. This is a kit amp, by the way. This is a kit amp, by the way. So Tracy Guns is building amplifiers that come in kit form from Mojotone. If you look at this thing really closely, you can go to Mojotone and see exactly. This is a Mojotone kit. All right. And then he wires it up. I don't know what he's selling them for. That is a APD part right there. Hay bower. It's a hay bower output or a power transformer or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. The transformers are not the problem in this amp. It's the build quality. I don't know what he's charging for these things, but this is horseshit is what I'm going to say. That is just bleh. That's all I can say. Not good work. Not a lead in this thing is straight. Not a lead in this thing has been straightened. It's not right. Do not build your amps like this. I don't know what the hell this is. that ain't how you do it. Money for nothing and the chicks for free. That's not going to get you there. Yeah, right. Jesus. Let's see if there's any other examples. Let's see here. I don't know much about Tracy Guns in and of himself, but if that is his work, then oof. What does this one say? No, that ain't it. I don't know if this is actually Tracy Guns, but you can see it's all just PCB anyway. So even if it is a Tracy Guns, that obviously is just PCB. So there you have it. Probably took someone else's circuit and, you know, whatever. Anyway, that's enough bashing. We got to see all we needed to see today. So you can see that there is a difference between the different makers and builders out there. I'm not saying mine is the best. There are things I like about other people's builds that I don't, you know, that I like more than I like about my builds. But I just do the best I can and I try to, you know, do it right. That's the big thing, is just making sure that the fundamentals are at least proper. There are some things that people argue with me about or will fight tooth and nail with me about on some things, like how I like to not wrap my wires around the turret 5 freaking times. But I don't do that. But right, do it properly the first time around. Anyway, we've been doing this now for 3 hours and 50 minutes. There's 12 of you, so we're down a little bit from where we were. I think we've gotten through all the basics. If there's not any more questions, I'm done bashing, so I'm going to quit with the bashing for right now. Does anybody have any other questions before we call it a night? Maybe, maybe not. I thank you all so much for your participation, your attention. I had some fun. We got to see some more of the amps that I've built and designed. I got to hear them as well. I got to go to the bathrooms, more or less what's coming down to. I've held it as long as I can possibly hold it. So with that, you guys have a wonderful evening. Take care. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.